From the land of Kawazu, now in living polygons, it's the SaGa dating game. And ready to discuss anything from modern music to hideous monsters are our three eligible bachelors. And here they are! Bachelor number one is a man of mystery. We can't get him to tell us what he actually does. Bachelor number two comes from a land of mystery, the Magic Kingdom. He's a man with a mission. And bachelor number three is a scrappy, older gentleman. But don't let the years fool you.
Hello.
Humph. Hello, world.
And here is our bachelorette of the evening, hailing from the romantically twilight realm of Fascinatoru. Ladies and gentlemen, Acelas!
Hello.
Now it's time to ask some questions to our bachelors.
Okay, bachelor number one, what's your perfect date?
A moonlight night, a trip down the forest, maybe a walk around the river.
That sounds good.
If we do it just right, the terrorists will never suspect us.
Huh?
You can handle a machine gun, right?
Moving on. Bachelor number two. I like the color red. It's nice and sanguine. What if, how about you?
Red.
Yes?
I hate that color.
Okay.
It makes me want to kill someone.
All right then. Bachelor number three. How do you like to stay in shape?
Yes, I am fully functional.
Okay. So, do you work out?
I am very careful with my parts.
That's all the time we have for today. Bachelorette, have you come to a decision?
I suppose. I'll go with bachelor number one. He sounds like he knows how to have a interesting time, at least.
Until our next show, may your dates be explosive!
Strap on your swords, ready your spells. You're about to enter the heart of a dungeon filled with computer and console RPGs from way back when, right up through yesteryear. To get you through this maze that's dripping with danger, we've gathered the best men and women from RPGamer to watch your back. Some of you have never entered this area before. You're in for quite a fight. For others, this return visit can only be described as an RPG backtrack. And here are the party leaders for this expedition, Phil Willis and Mike Minky.
And welcome to RPG Backtrack number 58, SaGa the Final Frontier. These are the voyages of the RPG Backtrack, its continuing mission to explore old crusty games, to seek out new... I'm actually just ad-libbing that, that's a funny part. Joining me tonight is my good friend and co-host, Mr. Mike Minky.
That green-blooded son of a bitch. It's his revenge for all those arguments he lost.
Damn it, Spock, are you out of your fucking mind? Well, we can keep going on about that all night, but we have other people to introduce, don't we, Mr. Miki?
We'd better.
We better indeed. We got Mr. Michael Apps.
How you doing?
Mr. Michael Baker.
Hello.
Mr. Nathan Schlothen.
Hi.
And Miss Sam Marshmallow.
Did you all know that Adrian Pasdar plays Iron Man in the Iron Man anime? I didn't, but I learned yesterday.
And knowing is half the battle.
That's right. G.I. Joe.
Go, Joe.
Now we need are the PSAs.
Now, did you like the original G.I. Joe theme song, or the one that came later on that was like a rap? Got to get tough, yo Joe. Which one did you like?
I was all for the rap.
I was all about the rap too. You gotta stand tough when you come down to the. I'm sorry. All right. So
I don't remember hearing the rap version.
You know
so
what?
I think
We'll have to hook you up, Mr. Baker. I can find that on YouTube for you after the show. I can't do it while I'm
I
recording.
like Inspector Gadget's theme better than either.
yes.
I must be the only person who hated that show.
Of course, the best one involves the G.I. Joe movie theme song, where Cobra gets to sing too. That is awesome. So, yeah, you can look up all three songs, people, at YouTube.com. However, this is not the G.I. Joe backtrack. show. This is the RPG Backtrack show. What are we talking about tonight, Mr. Minky?
We are talking about what happened when the SaGa series returned to English speakers all over the world on the PlayStation. And we have some people who know all about that.
Well, that's good, Mr. Minky, because my experiences with the SaGa Frontier series were very brief and unpleasant. So hopefully, our panel of guests can change my mind on this subject, right?
Hopefully.
If you call it
Are you
SaGa,
open-minded?
Am I open? Yeah. Am I really open-minded? Sure, I am. Absolutely.
A certain person on our forums, then this is the best game he's ever played.
Awesomeness. Whoa. And we'll also be on our Blast from the Recent Past. We'll be talking about Might and Magic Clash of Heroes. So, that's a really cool one. I like that game. We can talk about that for a while. Alrighty. We'll be right back after this brief break. And we're back, ready to talk about SaGa Frontier for the PlayStation 1. This is developed and published in Japan, at least by Square Enix. Published over here in North America by, what was it?
I'm pretty sure it was Squaresoft.
Square, SCEA. Is that Square Center
Sony.
of America? Sony? Yeah, that's Sony.
That's
right.
Sony.
Yeah, there you go. Directed. I'm not even going to say who directed and produced. I can't read these people's names. They're all Japanese.
It's Kawazu.
Yeah, what you just
Michael
said.
Apps' favorite person ever.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Excuse me, his proper name is the Maestro. Thank you.
The Maestro. This was released here in North America.
You can't call him that, or you get the Seinfeld connection. We can't have that.
Oh, goodness. All right, let me finish my public service announcement. This was released here in North America on March 24th, 1998 for your PlayStation. And this is also on the PlayStation Network. Oh, this
In Japan,
Oh, only in Japan? I'm about to say, I don't remember seeing that on
we don't
there.
have it.
Ah,
I wish we had it. Then I could actually play it again.
cool.
Same here.
This is a single-player RPG experience rated T for teen. So, let's talk about this, guys. Talk about SaGa Frontier.
SaGa Frontier.
SaGa Frontier. Say it. SaGa!
See, now you're making me think it was on the Saturn, and that just didn't happen.
SaGa!
So, SaGa Frontier, probably one of the most unique RPGs that graced the PlayStation.
Yeah, it's really different than almost anything you've played before if you played it at the time. And I guess even now it's probably really different than anything you've ever played. Unless, I guess you've played the games it most resembles, which are the 3 SaGa games for the Game Boy.
And
Well, I like
probably
that.
probably Suikoden 3 as well, in terms of multi-perspective play.
Yeah, but Suikoden 3 didn't have robots.
Sure it did. It had Gadget Z. Gadget Z.
I stand defeated.
In
You're
terms of
fighting with the wrong person when it
but-
comes to Suikoden.
Yeah, but SaGa Frontier had a really weird mix of everything under the sun, and no explanation of why.
Well, there's kind of an explanation if you... It's probably just all these different regions are like different weakly connected dimensions and worlds that all work by their own rules and have their own
At least
histories and stuff.
no reason actually given in the game itself why. There might have been a reason given in the Ultimania, but I've never read that. So
Well, yeah, it's only implied loosely and kind of makes more sense if you've played the Game Boy games, which have the more explicitly defined different worlds, their own rules that you could travel between.
yeah,
Well-
that's how I always chose to interpret it. Is just like Final Fantasy Legend 2. You know.
Well, and truthfully, do we care that there's no real direct connection? I mean, if you think about
Not-
it, every character
really.
appears in everybody else's scenario.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it would have been even worse if they had tried to really force a connection upon the game. Since they just left it completely up in the air, it's like, okay, it's there. Who cares? Yep,
Well,
let's play.
I think what makes SaGa Frontier work as well as it does is the fact that it has seven separate stories. Right? You have seven separate stories. You can kind of pick and choose which one you want to play. There's no real commitment to play all of them. So if you don't like one character, you don't have to play it.
It's kind of cool if you beat all of them, because then you get to go to the bonus developer room and mess around there.
There is a nice
the only
bonus.
perk.
Yeah, it's, to be honest though, that as much as it's a fun bonus for people who like this stuff, I know me personally, I didn't have the patience to try to even bother with that.
Me neither.
I don't. My copy of the game had scratches on it, so I had trouble finishing some of the scenarios due to just crashes and things. Like, there was a 50% chance that the game would crash upon the appearance of the first boss in Amelia's scenario.
Oh, lovely.
It took me 5 tries to get past that prison at the beginning of the game. Twice, and just because the game stopped as soon as the Ankeg appeared.
It took me a couple of tries just because I needed to remember, I can save anywhere. And when I didn't do that the first time and somebody caught me in the security guard room, that kind of ended the game right there. Which was too bad because I just spent half an hour fighting things and getting stronger.
But one thing I can really give Kawazu credit for is he's probably the first guy to come up with a save anywhere option in any RPG.
Okay,
on the Game Boy.
Can we just take a step back here and the fact that, like, let's not start talking like Kawazu's the only guy who made this game, that he's the only person responsible. I kind of dislike it.
No.
It sounds too much like that. There's a whole team of people who made this. It's only a small number of people.
He's the only name that we can remember.
True enough.
Not just that, he's the crazy person who made this, who made most of this game and created most of the ideas.
I mean,
you have to unfortunately give him that credit.
Vision, but yeah.
The problem is when the man has a vision, it either looks like a crazy person did it or a genius. For this game, I'm going to call him a genius. For Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the Wii, I'm going to call him a madman.
Oh my god. Oh my god, you did not just do that.
Yeah,
She did not. She did not go there.
Oh, no, you did not.
No, she didn't.
No, did not. The guy's incredibly creative, but his application of ideas does not always reach as high a level as his creativity.
Come on, racing RPG.
But before we go any further, we should give all of the characters a quick explanation so that people who might not be familiar with them can understand what we're talking about.
So shall we start with the characters in the dating game?
Sure.
Why not? Let's start with the ones named after colors.
Red. He's
Red.
a superhero.
He's a Kamen Rider ripoff, basically.
Yeah.
He's a Power Ranger.
All Kaiser.
Yeah, but the fun part is he can't even use the superpowers if there are any living witnesses still alive in battle.
Well, robots don't count as alive, though, which is awesome.
Exactly. That's the wonderful loophole.
He's got the second most number of robots in any game, character in the game.
Which I'm sure is not coincidental. But I think it's just fun, the fact that you can actually let your other characters all get knocked out, and then he can transform into the superhero and just trounce everything, if necessary.
Yeah.
Though I found that fighting with other people was very helpful because if Red gets stronger in his base form, then he translates that newfound power into the superhero.
Yeah, he can't level up while he's in a superhero mode.
True.
But he's got all these cool moves he can only use in that mode.
Exactly.
I wish I could learn more of.
Yeah, just the basic sword of that, whatever it was called, was so much more powerful than anything else he had access to for so long.
Yeah, it's like one of the most powerful swords in the whole game, really. Of course, that's trying to belies the fact that his punching is actually his true strength, because that's where most of his unique moves are, including his strongest.
Okay, other character, Blue.
Blue is the wizard. One of the two most powerful wizards in the game. And he's sure.
Are there any restrictions on language that can be used in this podcast?
Keep it PG-13.
I said that.
Okay, that seriously limits the amount of description we can give to Blue then, because he's not the nicest of the main characters by far.
Yeah, He's also got one of the more minimalistic plots. His plot is get all the magic, which, I typically do with every character anyway, so it's a little pared down. But hey, he's a twin. He's got a twin brother. The twin brother he's trying to kill, who's actually much more cool and fun than him.
Here's the thing.
So he's actually my favorite because of that. Twins
he has the
rule.
easiest plot to describe. It's called Revenge on Brother. Brother murders him. We all laugh. Game goes on.
And they go sent into hell.
And we can take advantage of certain exploits in the game and actually profit from his own brother killing main character. So,
I never
or the main
understood.
character being killed by his own brother.
Blue's outfit reminds me of someone who's Danish. I just noticed that. He has a little skirt and the Highland stockings, and I don't know if he's supposed to be Danish or Scottish. Or both. Kawazu, tell me, man. Tell me, what is this?
Well, he comes from the Magic Kingdom.
I've met Danish people, and he doesn't remind me of any of them.
You have not seen the beautiful artwork that the game has in the chibi form of him. It's cute. I'm looking at my book. I'm sorry. Chibi Amelia's cuter.
Yeah.
Yes, and Emilia has multiple outfits that she changes into for increasingly less reason throughout the game.
Hey, sexy bride outfit. Come on.
That you only get at the very end of her story.
Again, awesome.
Of course, those sections serve
and
some
they
amount of
actually-
gameplay function.
They do have a gameplay function.
Yeah, they actually
Like
change her
explain-
stats and her combat skills abilities.
Well, okay. Actually,
But-
most of them don't do much, actually. Only 2 of them actually have any effect because of whatever reason. They actually change what tech skills she can learn. So if she equips one outfit, you can learn the same skills that Liza learns. If she equips a different outfit, she can learn all the skills that Annie uses.
Yeah, in one way she becomes a martial arts expert, the other way she becomes a guns expert, right?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, the gunner outfit and the bunny girl outfit don't actually do anything at all, despite promises to the contrary.
No, they're just there for fun sort of exhibitionism. And I'm okay with
Incidentally, her story begins with her boyfriend having just been killed and she ending up in prison for his murder even though she didn't do it. And a mysterious fellow named Joker having seemed to commit the murder.
Yes.
And your
then
first
she falls
step.
in with a rebel group.
Yep, and the first part of the game involves the crazy director of the prison offering a challenge and to anybody who can get down to one particular part of the prison gets to leave if they don't get caught and shot to death.
It's pretty cool.
Sporting fellow, isn't he? Yeah.
Hey, it sounds like something out of a blood sports novel. Let's just whirl with it.
Yep, I think that's the point.
Yeah, if he wasn't insane, then her story would never go anywhere, so we just have to deal with it.
No, we'd have to deal with her rotting in prison. That's always good.
Yeah, that tends not to make much of a game.
No.
No.
No, but then there's the character whose game is pretty much just a grind. Loot.
Which one? Oh, Blue.
No.
Loot.
Oh, yes.
Well, how about
You
Loot?
can basically reach the end of his plot in 45 minutes. Tops.
Except you can't do that unless you use a Game Shark or whatnot, because the final boss will absolutely destroy you.
Yep.
I know. I got there within 2 hours, and what did Mondo do? He took me apart in 2 moves.
See, I'm sort of PO'd because he has one of the best partner characters in the game. Which is, if I'm not mistaken, her name is Captain Hamilton. Like, she's freaking awesome.
She
is. It's just like...
Even
Like,
she
I think
do it on her
I think
own.
we need to get back to actually introducing the main characters again, because we've introduced Blue, we've introduced Red.
We don't need to talk
Amelia.
about Loot. We talk about Captain Hamilton. She's cooler. Loot's
Yeah,
boring.
Blue.
Lute's
No, I mean,
boring.
we've done Amelia, but how about the robot? How about Acellus?
T260G, the robots.
Yeah. With mysterious Pat.
Yeah, and this one who's used to be the onboard computer of a ship in some ancient war, turned into junk, landed on the planet Junk. That's how he knows how bad you've hit as a robot if you land on a planet named Junk.
Well, the entire planet is one huge junkyard, connected to another planet which is called Scrap. So,
It's pretty awesome.
yep.
And then there is Acellus. She's a
Who was-
vampire.
She was the victim of a hit-and-run accident 10 years ago.
Turn vampire!
Turned vampire because the guy who hit her was a vampire.
And he's really hot. But not Edward Cullen hot, because that's just gross.
He's more like David Bowie's character in Labyrinth.
Hey,
I'll accept that.
Hey, Minky. Huh? Since she mentioned a Twilight reference, is it okay to do another plug for Riff Tracks?
Buy more Riff Tracks.
It's the only way I watch Twilight.
And we're still missing one more character, the adorable Ricky.
Ricky,
also known as Kun in Japan.
The monster, who seriously has the hardest after the game in terms of getting through Virgil's castle. But you have to in order to gather the 8 rings, which is the whole point of the plot.
Yep.
And I used Ricky for a while in Loot's scenario, and I could never find anything really good for her to fuse with, so I eventually kicked her out because she kept dying too quickly.
Yeah, the monsters were kind of hard to work with in SaGa Frontier sometimes.
Yeah, like, basically there's an extremely complicated, intricate way they work, and if you don't know how to work, they'll never make sense.
Which really describes a Kawazu game quite well.
Yeah, okay, this is the point where we need to say, use a guide if you want to play SaGa Frontier. It's the only way to play SaGa Frontier sometimes. There are no less than 2 different...
I'd say it's more like if you want to complete the whole game, you need a guide. You could probably get a lot of enjoyment just digging into it without a guide or anything.
Yeah, you can. I mean, but still, it helps to know basic stuff. Like, when I first played the game, I didn't even know you can permanently save monster abilities, which kind of limited the ability of my monsters. So it's like, it helps to at least have some idea of what you're doing in the game. Like, I had no idea how straight magic worked, etc., etc. I mean, the game got a lot more fun for me when I realized there's infinite money tricks. There's actually 2 of them in the game. They both work well. They work even better in conjunction, and they make the game more fun.
I was going to say, sadly, SaGa Frontier is just one of those games where it's one of the most poorly explained games. I remember as a kid that
there is one game that is there's one game that is even more poorly explained in its manual. Unlimited Saga, but that's a thing for another backtrack. Okay.
Don't open that can of worms just yet.
Yeah. And here I thought you were going to say Rune Factory Tides of Destiny, but okay.
I haven't had a chance to play that one.
I guarantee you Unlimited Saga is worse.
I know it is. I've played that one.
At least in terms of inscrutability, but let's go back to this game's inscrutability. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like the junkyard bug.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to spend a long time just running back and forth and waiting for good stuff to pop up in that junkyard, you can get it all for almost free.
Yeah. Wasn't part of the bug where, since the junkyard shop will only buy back certain items, but there was one item on the list that if you try to sell it back, even if you don't have it in your inventory, he'll still buy it from you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's more like
it's in like several thousand a pop.
Well, they won't give you money for it, but you can just go back into the junkyard and pick some more stuff, then go back, sell your non-existent item, go back again, and again, and again, and again. And I loaded up on lethal guns. Those are really handy.
Also, T260G does this a bit faster because it doesn't get the weakest items from that, I've heard. This is the one I missed when I first played through. I mostly used the gold trading trick to get infinite money.
Isn't it something about selling repair kits, and once you've sold enough of them, the items start to get better that you find?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used that to power up Loot and Amelia, and I might have done it with Red if I had felt like getting strong enough to take on his final boss, but
the Loot scenario 1 battle plan requires massive exploitation of that trick. I think I actually talked to somebody on GameFAQs who did that once, where the only battle he fought during the entirety of Loot scenario was the final boss.
Wow, that's impressive.
Because he recruited a couple robots and fully tricked them out, just using that money trick so that they had all the most massive equipment bonuses possible.
Just T260 on an engineer car? That's really impressive.
Yeah. And he somehow did it. I'm not sure how. But it's one of those listed challenges like the single-class challenges on Final Fantasy Tactics for the really hardcore players.
Yeah, I instead I took about 11 hours and just ground up a team, which I think Loot had about 900 hit points by the end, and Mondo was still not an easy boss, but if you are willing to spend that much time grinding, then he is actually very impressive, I'm going to say that. All 5 phases look really cool and intimidating, and that's because they are.
Well, here's the thing. One thing that is just awesome about SaGa Frontier is the boss designs. No boss looks the same. Even like the multiple forms on some of them, they're just massive looking, and it's just like, I don't know. I always got excited every time I got to a final boss in SaGa Frontier, because I always wanted to see what it looked like.
Any game in the SaGa series.
Yeah, and they all have their own theme song too, and they're just really cool, fun fights.
Yeah, almost all the music I heard in the game was really good. Kudos to Kenji Ito.
Yep, Kenji Ito rocks.
I've got 5 or 6 of the soundtracks by now, so yes, rock.
And speaking of final bosses, I thought Diva kind of came out of nowhere for Amelia, but did look cool.
Yeah, Diva's the out of nowhere one.
Diva makes kind of no sense.
Well, Amelia's ending makes no sense unless we're going to assume, oh, your boyfriend, well, he faked his own death? I don't get it.
Yeah, that could have used a lot more explanation.
I think it's like he's possessed by an evil mask or something. I'm not sure.
But then, where did the body come from?
Yeah,
Mystery.
I don't know.
You know what? I loved Amelia's plot up until the end because of all those reasons. I remember I started and I was like, oh wow, this is pretty, badass. Like, you got 3 girls and they're breaking out of jail, and, as it goes on, you start to see like Amelia shed her skin a bit more, and, she becomes a more open character. And then all of a sudden you get to the last mission and stuff starts to like make absolutely no sense. And I remember sitting there with my controller and I said to my mom, I'm like, I wasted 10 hours and this ending makes no sense. I was so mad. I think I threw my controller just because, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't get this. I don't get how this works. But it did have the Dream Super combo, so I didn't care because I whacked good with that.
I only use that against the Hell's Lord.
But you know what? Again, like, here's the frustrating aspect of this game. There's good ideas in the stories. Almost all of the endings are poorly explained, and I don't know if that has to do with like the budget cuts that went into this game or whatever, but Blues was even more problematic too.
Yeah, Blues. I kind of like Blues ending because they kind of like you get his credit roll when you beat Rouge or when Rouge beats him. So basically, the entire gameplay from after that point is the ending. And it's like I kind of like how it just stops in the middle of the final battle because suddenly it's like this implication that the battle doesn't end. He continues to fight Hell's Lord for eternity, and that's his ending.
I guess as a child, I thought that was really stupid, because I loved the whole, I loved the battle between Blue and Rouge. I thought that was amazing. The whole having to fight Hell's Lord for God knows how long, I was not into that. I did beat him, but I was not into that. I was like, that was a waste. I want to go back to the part where, like, I was fighting my brother again and murderizing him. Again, I was a very impatient child.
Well, speaking of endings, I liked Loot's just for its amusement factor. By beating Mondo, Loot has apparently become really high in the Resistance's echelons, and now people want him, whereas he would rather just run away from all kinds of responsibility. And the fact that his mother reacts to somebody actually looking for her son with outright skepticism and then completely downplaying every aspect of it. I thought it was funny. Not much of an ending after the 11-hour grind I had to do in order to take down Mondo, but it was still cute.
Yeah, this game definitely suffers from being a bit incomplete at times. Oddly enough, Loot's story seems to be complete, but like Azel's story still has code from when it actually was properly complete rather than the half-ish thing it is, and there's still a whole other character who's supposed to be a main character, but we got cut out.
Yes, yeah, but you see him a lot.
He joined me. If Fuse did join me, and he was pretty cool, and he was really handy in that middle of Red scenario fight line, but then he vanished again, and that sucked.
I'm trying to remember whose scenarios he appeared in.
Well, Fuse appears in any scenario since you can recruit him on the Arcane Quest.
Right.
And he's also a major character in Amelia's scenario because he's the one who arrests her friend. And he's really nasty towards her because he blames her for the death of his best friend.
Yeah.
And he and all of his ERPO allies are all major allies for Red's story. You can only recruit almost all of the ERPO team in a Red's story, which gives him kind of a cool edge.
Oh, that was Fuse at the beginning of Amelia. I played Red after Amelia, so I didn't make the connection. I just remember him being the interrogator.
Yeah. You blamed her for everything. It was sad.
Yeah. So yeah, from what I remember, a lot of Luke's scenario was taken out. Fuse's scenario was dumped entirely, and there were some alternate things from Acelis' scenario that were never properly worked on. Like, especially how she escaped from the Castle of Thorns to begin with at the beginning. That was supposed to go differently. And then there's
a whole area.
Yeah. There's random other stuff throughout the game that had to be dropped because of space issues, which is a perennial problem for that development group. They had to do the same thing for Romancing Saga, the original.
Yeah, and also that's the time where a lot of things were getting their budgets cut because the Fall Festival series was stealing a lot of money from them. Same problem with played Xenogears.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought Acelis had some of the best boss fights in the game. I
really
but
they
did.
attack you so randomly.
That part I hated.
They're bounty hunters. They just find her. Whenever they find her, they kill her.
That's the idea. And I thought that was pretty cool, just the way that they did it. Yeah, it's randomized, but, it's an assassination plot. It would be kind of randomized.
Yeah, but, what's the point if you're expecting it? They should have renamed the characters the Inquisition or something. You never expect them coming.
See, my favorite boss fight in the whole game was the Lion Princess one. I loved her grudge. Because it was just you're prettier than me! And I was like, what? Okay, I'll just beat you up. She had no real reason to go after her. She was just kind of you like the hot vampire man, I like the hot vampire man. Guess what? I'm taking hot vampire man and you can't have him. By the way, I'm hotter than you. And that was all it was.
The hot vampire man was the charm lord, and who knows what kind of controls he had over his own followers. So
it's so true.
Driving that one, the Lion Princess, was it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Driving her to obsessive insanity, that would be his kind of MO.
Well, she was the worst, though, for the randomization, too. After you beat the Mystic Sages, she pretty much could just appear anywhere. It didn't matter where you go. All of a sudden, she'd appear and you'd be like, oh, crap. Oh, crap, I gotta fight you. I don't like this anymore. I don't know how many times I had that happen where, she'd just murder me. Because it would happen.
Yeah, I mostly had trouble with the first random sage, the Wind Sage. I'm just trying to build up a party here. I just don't even have equipment, don't have any characters, nothing. And the Wind Sage attacks me and I'm trying to walk to a shop.
Acelis chapter, the randomization aspect, it was kind of brutal. But it felt so rewarding every time you beat a boss. It was like, ha ha, you tried to trap me and I beat you. And I appreciated that. But, her chapter felt like it was for, the hardest of the hardcore. If you notice some of the other chapters, they ease you in a little bit better. Hers is probably the worst for that. And I remember because hers was the first one I played and beat.
Same here, actually. Well, it's the first one I tried, the last one I beat, for me. And out of all the 7, it's definitely the hardest final boss.
If you think about it, what would you actually think it would be the easiest chapter to start with? For me, I found the easiest character to play as was either Lute or Blue. Blue was great because it really eased you into everything.
For me, it's
a lot
Red
of people
or Amelia.
would probably
They have a lot of plots. Yeah, Red or Amelia because they've got a lot of plots. They give you a lot of characters, special perks.
It has a lot of direction to where you're supposed to go next.
See, the only reason I say that I liked Blue for an easy learning curve was just for the game mechanics in general. Blue's forced you to kind of play a lot with everything, so it was a lot easier to start to realize, like, oh, hey, if I do this, I'll get a different ability.
Yeah.
Even though his was just like, go find magic cards.
Yeah, but a lot
Blue and Amelia are both...
Okay.
One at a time.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, Blue and Amelia are both good starters because, well, they're the only two that force you to start learning magic early on. Blue because it's his plot, Amelia because she has to get the rune card and kind of push you towards getting more continuing the rune quest. That's how you recruit your own team leader. And the rune quest is the easiest way to really go on to the early game and build up a decent amount of power so you can start facing stronger things in the game, just going to the moves tomb and such. So that's kind of a good way to help. It kind of pushes you to learn on how to go through these games.
I thought the rune abilities were actually also more useful than the arcane abilities. Because weren't most of the rune abilities buff?
Yeah, the rune abilities buffed you. Arcane is just kind of weird.
I just found in the case of the arcane cards, that I never had a lot of luck with them doing enough damage for me or anything. So I just remembered, like, every time I'd restarted the game, I was like, you know what, I'm not even bothering doing that because I don't actually understand what half of these things do.
And also the fact that some of the final battles of the Arcane Quest are really tough.
Yeah, they're pretty nasty. Like, the Saber card in particular has a pretty nasty boss fight that goes with it in Walk 2.
Well, I don't think that's a mandatory boss fight. You can do the Saber early. For me, it's always the... which card is it? It's the one on the mountain?
Is that the... Oh. That's the
Niflheim.
The shield card.
Yeah, shield card. Suzaku.
That's the one from IRPO.
Yeah,
that's the one that Fuse sends you on.
Yeah, Fuse sends you on. Just that Suzaku is a really nasty boss, and it always got me a lot in the earlier parts of the game. So
to be honest, like, all the bosses, though, were nasty in the Arcane Quest. Like, it didn't matter. Like, I mean, the Shadow one you didn't have to technically fight, but
how
like...
about the Cup card quest?
Oh, the Grail was awful.
Man. The Grail card, the one where you actually had to go around to all the breweries in Yorktown and get drunk before walking into the marsh. And so your character will actually totter around and can't walk a straight line.
And
they surround you with some terrible monsters all around you.
That was pretty nasty.
And when you start battle, everybody's drunk and can't hit anything properly.
Oh, you'd be lucky if you got a hit in general. However, if they got a critical while they were drunk, like, it usually auto-killed the monster. If you were lucky enough.
It was just one of the funniest sequences in the game, though.
It's like some of the conversations are...
Yeah,
some of the conversations are hilarious where some of these creatures are getting drunk by all the forced alcohol.
Yep.
I had to resort to using Space Lord to get through that one sometimes. It's so hard.
Well, I mean, speaking of, like, the Space Lord, my goodness, his was really hard, too. Between him and the Time Lord, both the boss fights were really challenging.
Yeah, you can mercifully recruit them, everyone other than Blue, but Blue has to fight them, and they're powerful.
Yeah, sucks to be Blue. I remember actually...
Jerk.
I remember the first time I did Blue's scenario, and I did the Time Lord battle. I think it took me about 7 or 8 times because he has that one lovely attack that if he gets you with it, you are toast. Even if you use Psychic Prison, which is what I kept doing, I'm like, Psychic Prison, I'm gonna get you, and then he'd use that one auto-kill attack, and I was like, I hate this game. So... that one gave me nightmares. Then I realized I should have just went for the Space Lord because he was a little bit easier.
But that's one thing I really like about the SaGa games is you can get such a wonderful feeling of accomplishment when you finally do succeed.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean beating a SaGa game means that you have really had to work the game, and if you don't break down and start crying before you get that far, it feels really good.
This game made me cry for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. And yet
Sorry,
you finished
Nathan.
it.
I finished most of the stories.
Most is enough to count as finish.
That's what I figure.
Well, as long as we're talking about somewhat issues with it, Squaresoft, or whoever translated it, certainly didn't do the best job possible. Would you agree here?
Yeah.
It's early PlayStation Squaresoft translations. There's very few gems of that.
I mean, all I can say is that it is on par with games of its time.
There's considerably less profanity than Final Fantasy VII, and I don't remember any obvious things like "this guy are sick," but it still isn't great.
Oh, but at least it did actually they did actually include the porn magazine and didn't try to translate it into something else.
Progress.
Yes. Especially when every main character had a different reaction to the magazine, if you found it in that bookstore. You remember that?
I just remember Amelia's reaction was an ew, dirty.
Amelia's reaction was something like she was criticizing the proportions of the model in a professional manner. Because
no, then it was Acellus then who was actually
Acellus' reaction was something like, "Oh, what is this feeling? What this?
This is weird."
Yeah, it always came across to me as a questioning her own sexuality moment.
Hey, you know her relationship with White Rose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the three possible endings for her scenario are based on, at least partly based on her final sexuality choice. So.
Yeah, I got White Rose in my ending, so.
So was that the full human, half human, or full mystic ending? I can't. Full mystic ending was full mystic ending. She ended up being like scary lesbian overlord character.
I didn't get that one. That was not the one I got. I think mine was the half human one.
Yeah, I think that was it.
She and White Rose are just like, we're gonna escape and everything will be okay, and it's the more reassuring ending. So I'm not sure which one that is.
Probably
it's been a long time.
Probably the half mystic ending.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm trying to remember things that I didn't like as much about the game. One of the things I didn't like was how they took pretty much every weapon attack type from the earlier games and fused them into just bladed weapons. Is in this game you had bladed weapons, you had fists, and you had projectiles.
Yeah, well,
just 3 weapon types only.
It kind of works well enough. I mean, it's a decent enough choice between swords, guns, fists, heavy weapons, magic. There's still a lot of choices in the game for that, and certainly you can still have lots of different characters who all have their own little styles of how they build up weapons and such. So there's a lot.
I know, but it
distinctness.
Just piles a lot together into the bladed weapons section. When I can recognize a lot of the attacks from earlier games as being either sword or spear or axe or rapier or different weapons. I mean, there were 8 weapon types in the second and third Romancing Saga games. There were 6 in SaGa Frontier 2. I know it's disappointing.
I'll just defend this on the virtue of the fact that in a kind of a game world where characters have access to high explosive bazookas, it makes a little less sense for there to be a huge variety of medieval weaponry lying around. So it kind of makes a bit more sense to just be the swords, especially when they have laser swords.
Dude, the laser swords were cool.
But that's when you come up with things like explosive bayonets or electrified whips or nanofilament whips. Fun. If you don't kill yourself.
You know,
yeah.
Go for it, Gaijin. Sorry.
Okay. Just having everything in the bladed weapons department seemed like a lot of the physical characters couldn't be as individualized as they could have been, or that as individualized as they were in other games in the series.
Well, they've got actually fairly restrictive move lists in terms of Technically, everyone can learn everything, but
that was the other thing. The move list was a lot smaller for bladed weapons too. Okay,
yeah, but some characters were really restricted to what they could learn, even though technically everybody could learn everything.
Yeah.
Liza was a perfect example where that was not the case at all, and that it would take her forever to learn something outside of the unarmed field.
Like Liza's is really good at 3 of the attacks into the Dream Super combo, but is really bad at the 4th. So there's a little quirks like that. Like some characters are really good at punching, other characters are better at kicking. Some characters are great at certain slashing, other characters are better at stabbing attacks. Like Azelis is great at stabbing, versus say Annie, who's more good at slashing. I think.
Yeah, yes, she was. Annie was also better with daggered weapons. Like she would actually get bonuses in a lot of her daggered weapons, which was kind of interesting. Mostly because her first weapon, if I'm not mistaken, was a nail file. Which I don't know if anybody remembers.
Yeah, but I mean, that makes sense. If you're in prison, you're going to be using a shiv.
I mean, the one thing about SaGa Frontier's battle system, well, I mean, it's really interesting, and it was definitely a unique beast at the time. The randomized elements in the battle system really were kind of annoying at times. Like, sometimes you'd get a random attack and be like, hey, I just used this slash attack maybe 4 times and I got another attack, yay! And then you could do it another 30 or 40 times and nothing would happen.
Yeah, there's just a lot of randomness and a lot of non-random things that are really hidden from the player that are kind of limiting and affecting what you're getting. So
what bugged me a lot is the combo moves. Most of the time, they'll combo just fine, except when the tornado decides to screw with you so that you don't get them in the correct succession and you don't get a combo. Well, that's not very cool, is it? Especially if you're needing it to take out a boss that is hurting you very, very badly. And
curse you, Virgil. Yeah. Especially bad concerns I finally learned a level 5 combo. Maybe I can finally beat Virgil, and then it suddenly turns around and it's oh, I've seen that one before. It bores me. No points. Can't beat Virgil.
You must have cried a few times, didn't you?
Maybe. A little.
I don't blame you. Virgil was kind of a meanie face. I never got to him, but I can only assume so.
I'm still trying to figure out why the translation, or when it was decided that the character Virgil was a boy instead of a girl, because he's the ruler of Hell with a single L, and he looks a lot like the character Hel, the goddess from the Thor comic book. It's one of the few Thor comic books I actually ever owned featured Hel in that episode or in that issue, and the horns and part of the outfit are identical. So.
Now, Gaijin, you live in Japan. How often does anybody ever get gender right in that country? And then in localization, how often do you think they get gender right because they're looking at it and going, I don't know. Again, Rune Factory Tides of Destiny.
Good point.
just saying.
Any manga made by Clamp in there.
Well, that's actually a perfect example. I mean,
yeah.
Look at some of the characters in that, and you're just kind of like, are you a boy or a girl? And if you have to play boy-girl, that's not a good sign.
That's the symptom of the shoujo genre as a whole.
I mean, I love playing boy-girl. I really do. But not always when I'm sitting there really stumped and going, I don't get it. I mean, y'all remember Sakura Wars 5, right? Subaru?
Mm-hmm.
Scott only asked me to date her because he wanted to find out if Subaru was a dude or not. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I the funny thing was, I told Shirley to do the same thing when she was playing the game. I'm like, go after Subaru, because I want to know if she's a guy or a girl.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. I spent the whole game, I watched her play for 24 hours wondering what the hell the sex was on that one.
Like I said, Japan
and Sakura Wars already pulled that with Sakura Wars 2 and Rennie, or Lenny, whichever.
Yeah, and then there was also Kana, who was Glamazon lady.
Kana was clearly a woman. She was incredibly macho, but she was definitely female.
If you ever watched the English dub of that show, they really thought she was a man most of the time.
All I did was play the game. And I can tell you she's definitely a woman in the game. Even though she's voiced by the same actress who does the Japanese voice of, what's-his-face, Kuririn. You remember, the bald guy in Dragon Ball, who constantly gets pwned.
Krillin.
Yeah,
except his Japanese name is Kuririn.
Kuririn.
It's supposed to be a pun.
But, yeah, I mean, SaGa Frontier is kind of in the special category of boy-girl. I mean, Blue looks like a woman. Come on, guys. See that hair? I mean, it's so silky smooth.
But I mean, half the cast of SaGa Frontier would count as other in any case.
Yeah, like Riki just
true.
explicitly doesn't have gender, so.
I mean,
And yet in the localization, didn't they make Riki purposely a girl? Because wasn't Riki often referred to as a her?
I thought Riki was actually
I can't remember. I would have to actually buy the Japanese version and play through Riki's quest to find out which pronoun the character uses.
It's been a long time for me, but I thought for some reason for years I thought that Riki was a girl.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure she was referred to as Riki was referred to as a girl when I got her with Melee in that bar.
Yeah. Scrap.
Yeah, they're a little bit ambiguous, but they do mention a bit as a girl, but also, I think they might also throw a boy reference. I can't remember, it's been a long time.
But that's what I mean, this game had some really wonky localization errors.
And then there's the confusions of the implied gender of T260, which is, like, you can't default to male. Yeah, robot, but also main computer of a spaceship. What's the stereotypical voice they always use for main computer of a spaceship?
Gene Roddenberry's wife?
Yeah,
yes.
That's what I was about to say. If you're a Star Trek fan, then it's going to be a woman. So. Yeah.
And we brought up Star Trek, we killed the conversation.
Yes, apparently so.
Okay, then let's discuss how it looks.
Bring up SaGa Frontier. I mean, we could talk about Star Trek, we could talk about Mad Max style post-apocalyptic scenarios. We could talk about kung fu movies. I mean, there's that entire pseudo-Oriental region. So it's just weird.
Where you get mind magic.
Well, that was more of the pseudo-Hindi region. I'm thinking more of the sword guy. Gen was his name. His region.
Yeah.
With the saber card.
Yes.
Yeah.
That too.
And it's a really awesome sword I never got.
Yep.
I got the sword because I fought the boss. It hurt. I was not happy with myself. And then there's the scary, what is it, the monster that you get eaten by when you go to Tanzer?
Tanzer.
Oh, the Leviathan Tanzer, yes. And you have to go through his guts.
I loved that area. I always got excited whenever I saw the spaceship come on the screen because I was like, yes! I'm going in the belly of the beast!
That one terrified me when I was playing that game originally. It's just like, oh no, Tanzer's eating me.
Well, you gotta love that the first time it happens to you because you're looking, it's like, wow, this is a new spaceship. It's not like the one that has all the little, speakers flapping around or the one that looks like a rocket. No, you get this one that kind of looks like a dragon and you're thinking, cool, I'm going somewhere different. No big deal. And then you get eated. And then you go, ew, this is gross. I just remember the first time that happened to me, I was so excited. I'm like, ooh, a new spaceship. And then I was like, oh, I shouldn't be excited by this at all.
Yeah, for me, it's like the first time I went to Tanzer's and Riki's story, which is to fight the actual Tanzer boss. I
that's right.
Couldn't beat that one that time. So I was kind of traumatized and was afraid to ever go into Tanzer again. But you have to as soon as you start the rune quest. So, yeah.
I actually loved the fact that the game pretty much allowed anybody to use magic. I mean, there was the robot who couldn't and Riki, right? They're the two that couldn't. But everybody else could. And pretty much the only, penalty was, hey, if you pick one, you can't pick the other. Not a big deal, but you could...
there were a couple more limitations, like only the human characters could do mind magic, and only the mystic characters could do mystic magic. But yeah.
And Blue and Rouge can't use mind magic unless you've actually reached that point in their story, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to be one in mind body. Yeah.
Even still, I mean, it was kind of great. The kind of like the tests that they put you through. I wasn't huge on the cards and the runes, but I really always loved doing the shadow magic and the light magic quests. I mean, I'm someone who likes the switchy mirror puzzles.
Yeah.
And I loved doing the Shadow Realm, and I loved fighting the Shadow Boss. That's one of the cool ones.
Yeah, that's a really hard one though, which always has been kind of a problem for me.
Yeah, but if you do the shadow quest, then you can get silence.
True.
I mean, there's pluses to it.
So I just thought that was like one of the more interesting aspects. The limitations, I guess they're kind of a pain, but I mean, as long as you manipulated them to your advantage, everything was peachy keen.
Oh yeah. Anything
Other
else
than
to mention about SaGa Frontier? Oh, Time Lord. Let's kill the Time Lord again.
Let's just put it this way. SaGa Frontier, maybe one day it'll appear on PlayStation Network so Nathan and I can go re-download it. Right,
and
Nathan?
have fun again.
Actually, I'm really hoping that it ends up on Square Enix's list of games to remake. Especially if the same team that did Saga 2 and Saga 3 do the rest of the Romancing Saga games and then continue on to SaGa Frontier. That would be perfect.
Yeah, I'd love to see remakes of SaGa Frontier or even SaGa Frontier 2 because they're both awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I say before we end this discussion, who is everybody's favorite character to play as? Starting with Nathan. Go.
Okay, I'm gonna say it. All Kaiser, because of his theme.
He has an awesome theme. How about you, Mr. Baker?
I'm gonna go with Amelia just because I like the whole Charlie's Angels thing going on.
Mr. Apps.
Amelia. I always start with her whenever I go back to the game.
We have 2 for the hottie. Junes, take us home.
I'll support Amelia. That was a really cool opening, and it stayed cool up until the end.
3 for the hottie, Amelia. And just to throw it in there, I'm gonna say Acelus, just because I liked Sexy Vampire Man.
Yeah, Acelus.
And I loved running. I always loved the opening scene of hers. I love escaping the castle. The only thing that got me was White Rose drove me absolutely ballistic, and she was totes in love with Acelus, and they just should have been together, and lesbians! Yay! I got nothing there, guys. I just thought the lesbians were kind of entertaining. Especially because the localization doesn't give you the lesbians, but it's so there.
I thought it was pretty impressive that they had that much of an open portrayal of the relationship in the game, as much as the translation would allow.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, they usually just clamp down on that kind of stuff really hard on the translations.
Well, hey, they could have been worse. They could have made them kissing cousins.
True.
If anyone remembers what they did to Sailor Moon.
I was thinking about that earlier.
I have blocked that translation from my mind. Thank you.
Yeah, I remembered that.
Why Dungeons and Dam was never actually brought to America. So.
Which is kind of depressing because that game looked so fun.
Yeah, there was a female character in that game who was very, very touchy-feely with the main character, except around the 4th or 5th chapter you find out that this character is actually a boy.
No, not boy-girl again!
Oh, incredibly so. To the point where nobody suspected that he was really a boy. And he doesn't change any of his behavior afterwards either, because he doesn't see what the matter is.
So why isn't this episode of RPG Backtrack called SaGa, the Boy or Girl Adventures? Why did we figure this out? Now I'm not going to stop thinking about it. Wait till we get to SaGa Frontier 2, where I totally admitted that I thought Gustav looked like a girl and thought he was a girl for the first half of the game.
Even with the incredibly masculine Swedish name. Okay.
It was the outfit he wore in the first scene. It make a dress.
Don't they specifically call him a son, like right away?
Yeah,
probably. But was I paying attention? I'm the first to admit my level of patience.
Well, before we hit the second game in full, I think we should give a shout out to how unique this game looks among all the Squaresoft lineup of PS1 stuff.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
You mean the fact that it's actually very gorgeous, but everybody looks like bobbleheads?
Yeah, I'm surprised all these people can actually walk around. It looks like they should be falling down and rolling head first everywhere.
Yeah.
You have to admit, though, the color palette in this game is brilliant. Just the amount of color. The setting is by far, this game has one of my favorite settings. Like, if you go from a world like Junk to, where Acellus is from, to the prison that Amelia escapes from, every world is unique looking, it's distinctive, and it has so much personality. And I hate that a lot of RPGs just don't do that anymore.
Yeah, SaGa Frontier, the world where anything goes.
Well, that's just it. A lot of the designs were really sassy. We didn't even talk about Backtrack. The casino, which was amazing looking.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you go to the bottom of it and you find out that there's gold-stealing gnomes.
Well, the entire place is run by the gnomes, though. That's part of their money laundering business.
But that's what I mean. The level of uniqueness to the level of the design is beyond impressive.
Or Kowloon, which is supposed to be like a stereotypical, actually an old-style Hong Kong slum, and underneath it you have these crazy cave systems.
Isn't that where, Dr. Nukescan is?
Yep.
Yeah, the Mad Doctor, too, yes.
Who, every time you go in there, you have to, you'll notice somebody will go up to the door, and then there'll be the scream, and then every character will have, their own little thought process of, what? And then you go in, and everybody gets their, what? Scene with him. Yep. Except for Ricky. Ricky has, a full conversation with him.
Yeah. Well, Ricky and Blue can recruit him. So Ricky's got him for his story. Blue is actually optional recruitment. One of my main team members for Blue. Because he's creepy and awesome and a mystic.
Well, he's, because he's also a mystic, you can get him in Acellus' story, too.
Ah, true.
And, you can get him in one more. I'm just trying to remember which one it was. I want to say, I think it was Red. You could go and get him, too.
I'm pretty sure it's just Blue, really, other than the maid, Ricky and Acellus.
Yeah, no, I know I remember getting with Acellus, for sure, and I know I remember I got him with Ricky, but I thought there was one more, because I don't think I ever got him Blue.
Did you ever beat the insane optional bosses? The one in the Indian regions, ruins, and the one in the Biolab?
I beat
Earth Dragon. I don't remember the one from the ruins.
In the ruins, if you beat a certain number of bat-type monsters in the area,
you get the giant bat.
There's a shadow that appears
Abyss Bat.
in one room, and the Abyss Bat.
I can't remember if I beat Abyss Bat.
I beat Abyss Bat. I never beat the dragon. I know that for sure.
There was also Furdo, but he was pretty easy as an optional boss.
Yeah. There's also...
Actually, I remember reading Furdo was actually supposed to be part of Acellus' plotline, but they ended up having to cut out all the story connections to him because he was a mystic who learned the human magic. Yeah. He was actually a very weak mystic who taught himself human magics to make himself stronger.
Neat.
Yeah. Lots of wasted storylines in that game as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can swear to this. The more you dig into this game, the more you will find. Just you're gonna hit really hard sometimes.
Yeah, that's even it took me years to even find some of the random references they throw out in this game, like how one of the attacks in the ultimate form of T260G is a reference to some random mecha anime and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Crazy game.
think we're finally running low on
talk
about the first one.
Yeah.
I could talk about the first one for hours, but I'm going to be a nice person and not.
Well,
so we'd have to go into more crazy detail if we want to dig any farther, I think.
And we will let you type for hours on end on the boards. So go to board.rpgamer.com and share your thoughts and opinions on SaGa Frontier.
I'm sure we'll get many.
And while you're rushing to type in that URL and get your opinions noted on the World Wide Web, we're going to take a brief break and come right back with some SaGa Frontier 2. Enjoy the music. Back to continue our discussion about the SaGa Frontier series. This time we're talking about SaGa Frontier 2. And so this is developed by Square here in North America, published by Square Electronic Arts, of course. Released in North America on January 31st, 2000. This is a single-player RPG experience for your PlayStation 1. And this is rated T. Is this T for terrific or T for terrible?
Terrific.
Okay.
Terrific.
I know it's got really, really pretty art. That's what really caught my eye when I was looking at this game back in the day. I just love looking at the screens. I mean, the screenshots look like
watercolor.
Watercolor, thank you. They were absolutely gorgeous. But does the gameplay and the story and all that other fun stuff match up to the wondrous artwork that I see here?
Well, it's got some of the best music I've ever heard in a video game, so at least that matches up.
It's also a very different style of play at times from SaGa Frontier, the first one, just because it's also the most linear game in the series.
Well, it's not really linear in the fact that you have extreme flexibility in what order you take missions, but there's a certain amount of linear. It's very different from other SaGa games.
Linear and more in a chronological fashion.
True, yeah. It's very much with the flow of time forward, which is rather than just kind of exploring freely.
Which means that you will have to do a lot of scenarios in order to advance to other scenarios. And there's two different lines to follow, the Gustav line and the Will line. But at the same time, you do kind of have to keep up one and the other on the timeline if you want to access everything properly. I think there's one or two scenarios where if you mess up the timing on a bit, they just kind of cancel. But not important ones, but you know.
So that's why I never properly beat the game.
No, you probably didn't properly beat the game because you got to the point of no return and realized that your characters weren't strong enough. That was a nasty surprise for me.
I just remember that I got to what I thought was the end of the Gustav line because, spoiler, Gustav dies at 49. I got that, but then the game kept kind of going.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, basically, SaGa Frontier 2, it doesn't tell you at first, but it's a 3-generation story. Gustav's story is only the first generation of his story. What's more, Gustav's story is what I consider the incomplete one of the two stories. The Will Knight story is more the real story of the game, and it tells through 3 generations of the Knight's family, so it's quite a bit bigger than it looks at first.
So,
whereas the technical second generation of the Gustav story is actually the villain story at the end of the game. So.
See, I just started playing this game for the first time recently, and I stuck with the Gustav story, for the first few hours, and then finally jumped into the other storyline because I had no other option, and the game didn't really explain who anyone was. It
works a lot better if you keep them going in tandem a bit, just keep switching back and forth, and you start seeing references to the history being made on Gustav's story and how it affects the localized things in the others on Will's side.
Yeah,
it's
that's
definitely.
I could see that. It just seemed like it would have been better had they given you like some kind of, I don't know, summary of any events you may have skipped, or some kind of introduction if that's your first time, doing that storyline. Because I jumped in and all I knew he was looking for an egg. I had no idea what the egg was because I had just gone with Gustav's storyline because it seemed more interesting.
Yeah, SaGa
That's
Frontier
definitely a
2 is
problem.
another case where they came up with a whole lot of backstory, but they didn't necessarily mention all of it in the game itself. They've done that before.
Yeah, the thing about SaGa Frontier 2 is that you really need to play through all the chapters chronologically based off of the actual in-game timeline. It's kind of hard to do, really. It's not easy.
I managed it the first
it is
time,
definitely
but I
outside
don't
the
care.
game.
But yeah, one of the gripes I had with SaGa Frontier 2 is how, there's very little chance to backtrack and just level up a bit. So the first time I played through, I ended up being woefully underpowered by the end of the game because I sped through certain larger areas too fast. So I had to restart, play through it again, and just, like on the early will scenarios, just focus on breaking as many weapons to pieces as possible in as many entertaining ways as I could find. So. Oh yeah, breakable weapons in this game, but they actually managed to make it a bonus. So that was nice.
I like the return of breakable weapons.
Yeah.
Gave me some nostalgia.
But, in this game, money didn't carry over between scenarios very often unless they were directly linked by characters. A lot of the weapons wouldn't carry over except in the same circumstance. But the chips that you got, the anima chips that you got from breaking items, from using them too much, those did carry over. And so if you got a lot of cheap weapons off of the enemies early in the game and you just used those exclusively and used them to pieces, then you could actually build up quite a stash to use later in the game for the good stuff.
Also, it's like, definitely it helps.
Isn't there someone you can talk to get your... Sorry.
Oh, just saying,
Oh, yeah.
Definitely there is a lot of ability to carry items forward, though, thanks to item storage, I think, and various other tricks. Definitely helps slowly accumulate a lot of the quells, the unbreakable magic quell items, forward through different chapters, so you have a whole arsenal of those at the end of the game.
Yeah, the quells do carry over a lot, but, stuff doesn't usually carry over between the Will scenario and the Gustav scenario, for example.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the game, the two lines converge, and so you get a lot of items carried over then. But even so, it's usually a lot easier just to use up what you have of the generic weapons, just because you're going to be getting a lot of them from enemies anyway. Anyway, how cool is the magic system, right? Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like. Once I figured out, I rather liked the magic system and the whole mythology of this world and all of how the rules it works and its story and everything. Of just the different types of magic, the nature of anima, the contradiction between magic and steel weaponry, stuff like that.
This world's got a really cool feel to it, and it feels kind of more cohesive than you'd find in some of the other SaGa games.
Partly because it doesn't go all out in every single possible direction the way that the Final Fantasy Legend games did or the way SaGa Frontier did. So, it's limited that way because you don't have the monster characters, you don't have the robot characters, you only have human characters to deal with, but at the same time, the plot is something more like you'd expect from a Final Fantasy Tactics type game.
Yeah, it's much more comparable to the Romancing Saga games, and it's just great story with a detailed world for old. That's a lot less about crazy elements and a lot more about just having a kind of interesting premise to the world.
Yeah,
it's definitely an interesting change of pace for the series. Kind of
it's not the first time they've done that, but it's the first time it came to America that they did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Not
so
all
definitely a massive change.
Are lucky enough to have played Romancing Sagas.
Well, if you would like a copy of the Super Famicom cartridge, I could probably oblige.
And that's the only way you're going to play Romancing Saga 2 or 3 for quite a while.
Oh, technically you could do it on the computer too, but let's not talk about that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's like no good translation out there for it anyway.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Apps.
Yes.
According to Wikipedia, which, as we all know, is always right, so this is completely correct. Mr. Kawazu directed the first SaGa Frontier, but only produced the second. Can you tell a difference?
As far as gameplay mechanics go, it definitely feels very rooted in the Saga series. But I don't know if the difference in like the story structure had anything to do with him being in a different role or anything. It's hard to tell.
It probably did though, because this game definitely has a much more cohesive single backstory than a lot of the other games. The Romancing Saga games also had pretty cohesive backstories for each of them, so it's hard to tell. But
yeah. But
and
regardless,
also know that who is it? Masashi Hamazu is the composer for this one instead of Kenji Ito. Does that make a difference?
Oh yes, it does. I mean, Kenji Ito is a great composer. He's done a lot of good music for the Saga series, but Hamazu is really stellar. I mean, this is the game that made me certain that for all the people complaining that he's going to be on doing the soundtrack for Final Fantasy 13, that it was in good hands, because this is a beautiful soundtrack for this game. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Lots of recurring themes, lots of great stuff. It's you hear one song and you know it's from this game because it's just such a strong, coherent way it does the music. I love it so much.
Yeah, I'd have to say that's the first thing I noticed because I just literally started playing this about a week ago. That was one of the first things I noticed right away. It was just the soundtrack. It's great. And I was a little worried because I thought maybe it wouldn't have aged well, or maybe I wouldn't be as into this one. But once I started hearing the music, I was hooked.
I would say this game has probably aged pretty well. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
The graphics are good. The music is good. The battle system. I mean, I can't really think of any other games that used an environment-based mana system the way this one did. I mean, the way that you could draw different magic types from your equipment, but you could also get it from aspects of the area that you were currently in. So if you were near a lake, you could actually use water magic more frequently without having to equip water-based items on yourself.
I think this one could also use a nice remake, because though I've liked the story a lot so far, it seems like a lot of the dialogue, I don't know if maybe they just couldn't fit as much English text in. It just feels like it's missing a bit of detail.
Yeah, it does. And also, there's a lot of little story elements which are kind of dropped here and there, especially in Gustav's story. That's why, as I said, Gustav's story feels a bit incomplete. There's just ways it tries to connect that don't make any sense to me. Like, the whole connection of Philippe III to the previous characters of Gustav's story, it just confuses me.
Yeah,
stuff like
there's
that.
There's a big disconnect between Gustav and the Gustav line characters who show up in the final scenario.
Yeah.
As cool as they are.
Yeah, as cool as...
Dual wielding the firebrand and a giant steel sword. That's cool.
Yep.
I can't wait for that. That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. Oh, but just wait till you get to the final boss.
Yeah, the final boss of this game is brutal. Absolutely horribly brutal.
Yeah, this is one of those games where you get it gives you 6 elemental bosses before the final boss, and you can defeat 4 of them. You have to choose. 2 of them you can beat in group battles, 4 of them you have to take on with dual battles, and you can only choose 2 of those 4 dual battles.
And also, if a character goes on a dual battle, can't join the final battle.
Oh my god.
You have 2 surplus characters in your party at that point, that's why you can only take out 2 of them. But whichever two elemental lords are still around, they will fuse with the final boss to provide it extra forms. But you also have the option of skipping all 6 bosses and extending the final battle to I think it was a 13-form, 200,000 plus hit point monstrosity.
Oh my god.
Which is
13 forms.
If I think that's how many it turned out to be. I did a count up a long time ago. It was like more than 10 forms, as many as 13 maybe.
Yeah, I beat 3 bosses and then had a 10-form final battle, and that was so. I think 13 forms is the limit. It's just crazy.
And which is why the final boss of this game is listed as one of the toughest in the series, and it's a series where the final bosses are notoriously nasty.
Well, Mr. Epps, you've got your work cut out for you.
Yes, I do.
Actually, we were talking about, you really get that feeling once you beat this game.
Oh yeah, you do. Especially since it's got a fairly nice way it all ends together. There's just kind of, it's kind of a short ending, but it's actually really amusingly. That's a greatly appropriate one for how the story has played out so far.
It works quite well, yeah.
Also, yeah, I need to say the villain. It's a weird villain. It definitely very, very different from your typical RPG villain, but actually it kind of really works in its own way.
So, Wheels, unless you want to be spoiled, you might want to mute for a moment.
Okay. Someone send me some text when you're done with spoiling.
Okay, so, can you hear?
Yeah, so, let's see here. The villain of this game is basically, it's the egg. It's a weird name.
It's an artifact. It is just an egg-shaped artifact that happens to be able to possess people.
Yeah, it's like, it's just this weird leftover piece of some utterly alien ancient civilization that whoever touches it, it's utterly mind-controlled by the thing. And it's this weird thing that possesses all a huge amount of magical power.
But the thing is, almost every magical artifact in this game is taken from the same civilization. They're like cosmic leftovers. And the egg is the egg is just one of those pieces that happens to be sentient and just does not like the ugly little monkeys that are putting paws all over its things.
Yeah, it's left buried in a ruin in a casket of iron. The only thing that can actually hold back the magic is iron. So, and just Will Knight's father gets wrapped up in the battle against the egg, dragging his son Will Knights into it many years later. And to lead on to a whole long multi-generation conflict, this whole family tries to dedicate itself to finding this egg and resealing it, and before it causes a lot of problems, which it starts to really cause a massive problems to the world later on, as if basically the man possessed by the egg becomes basically a false tyrant, a pretender to the throne, leading a whole army to invade the world, using a giant army of really nasty soldiers. Yep. And this whole army of the Edelritters, the 6 people who are each possessing one of the types of anima, who are turned into terrible monsters and serve as the strongest generals.
Yep. It's really cool when you think about it. Yeah. So oh man, does it make for a nasty final boss.
Oh god, yes.
Can we usher Mr. Apps back into the conversation yet, or should we still plug his ears?
No, we could probably let him back in.
Yeah, I think we've done gushing over how nasty this thing is. Okay.
I'm listening to y'all. I'm just listening to y'all because I played this for about 3, 4, 5 hours. Loved the beautiful artwork, but kind of got lost with the whole switching to different characters thing that was going on at the beginning. Does that kind of a theme throughout? Like you switch different storylines or something?
Yeah, there's 2 main storylines. You need to kind of keep just jumping between them. Like for the most part, it's only really relevant early on because there's only a strong second storyline in the early part of the game. But for most of your game time in this with the Will Knight's story, with this occasional side thing with what's going on with the Gustav storyline.
And the Gustav storyline itself would probably have been done well as a George R. or J.R. What is his name? Song of Ice and Fire guys.
George R. R. Martin.
It's the basics are something that he might enjoy writing about. It's that level of
Broad
real
sweeping politics
and if people invading other people and high fantasy and everything else. That's
the building of great cities and
Yes. Oh, we should get that Sanderson guy to rewrite it then.
Yes, clearly. Get Brandon Sanderson. It's his job to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I endorse Brandon Sanderson. He will fix all the problems with your fantasy world, then make it better. But enough about Brandon Sanderson. He has nothing to do with SaGa Frontier 2.
Yeah.
But maybe he could have something to do with a remake. Huh?
I don't know. He's writing that really, really long Stormlight trilogy, which is like 10 books in itself.
I don't know. Isn't he writing a lot of things? He's got time.
So, Mr. Apps, you are saying that you would prefer this one to be remade ahead of any other SaGa game. Is that what you're saying?
Probably not.
Question.
There's a lot of
I'm
good
just
SaGa
happy
games
if-
to remake.
I'm just
Well, the
so
problem-
happy if they do them in order, because that would
Yeah, I'd
mean
say
Romantic Saga 2 is next.
Yes, I'd like them to remake the ones that haven't come out here and then actually release them here.
And how about remake
Yes.
the really crappy one that looks like a board game?
No,
Yeah.
Limited Saga.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that yet.
Another Backtrack.
Aw, but it's painful and made no sense.
Oh, it
And
makes
everyone
sense
who
once
played
you
it
watch
should be
the
crying.
short.
Rules that tell you nothing about how to play the game. That game is the perfect example. But again, wrong game, wrong system.
That game is bad.
No.
We can possibly
Not
assume
bad.
that if more SaGa
Weird
remakes come out on a system not the DS, then they might actually come here. Oh, and not the PSP either. We know that's not going to come over here.
But
What
yeah,
about
by
the
the time you
3DS?
get around to it, it'll probably be either the Vita or the 3DS.
Well, I'd say those have better odds of making it across the ocean than the DS or the PSP, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Especially if Square is going to be doing anything new or newish, they're probably going to be going for the next generation at this point. I mean, as soon
Or
as
the
they're-
iPhone.
No.
Wait a second.
Seal your mouth. Head off your tongue, please. Goodbye.
No, that would actually have a good chance of coming out over here, I think.
I don't think I'd
Oh.
want to play a Saga game. Like, looking at SaGa Frontier 2, I don't think I'd want to see one of those on a iOS.
No,
I'm sure
thank
maybe
you.
Romancing could probably do it, just
I
with
would
how
love
it
a Saga
looks.
game on my iPhone.
You don't need any more Saga games, sir. You have enough of them. Go sit in your corner and play them.
I'm
Yeah,
actually
but
playing
if I-
it right now.
If we're going to get a Romancing Saga remake, I want it to be a nice looking one. So
This
at
is
least
nice
improving on the Saga DS game.
Well, at least improving off of the PS2 one. That one's good looking.
Yes, it is.
Oh
Which
yeah,
one? There's two.
Well,
Romancing Saga, the PS2 game. I'm
yeah,
assuming.
the one that I actually like to talk about.
The one that I have
no-
that I got from Glenn. Okay.
Even
Just
though
checking.
the video sequences in the Limited Saga were really nice too. And again, we're talking the wrong Backtrack. Okay, Saga Frontier.
It's a sign that we don't have much else to say about SaGa Frontier 2 other than it's really pretty, and if you like punishment, you're okay.
No, Saga Frontier,
I'm surprised that we've
Saga
spent
Frontier
less than a
2 also
third
had-
time talking about this one that we did on the first Frontier.
Well, we kind of exhausted ourselves. It also is just, I guess, a little bit more straightforward of a game than the first one, which is
Yeah.
kind of
I mean,
crazy.
Saga Frontier 2 does have 2 different battle modes that aren't found in any other game in the series.
Familiar to Suikoden
True.
fans, but not as familiar to Saga fans.
I mean, yeah, there's the dual system, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, the dual system is great.
Yeah. I mean, where you can just input different commands and have them in a one-on-one battle and just have, like, slash, and you hit the enemy 3 times. And if you get the right combinations and you're a bit lucky, you can actually intentionally spark new moves off of them.
The only problem I had with the dual system is I didn't read the manual and they don't really explain it.
This is
Otherwise,
what Game Pass is for.
Yes, this is true.
Because you can also get the complete list of how to spark some of the stronger moves using the system. It's actually a little easier to do it that way than some. I mean, obviously some of the attacks cannot be sparked in dual mode, but a lot of the better ones can, and some of the spells too. Yeah. And then there's the strategic battles, which are interesting.
Yeah.
Even though the final strategy battle is like a final boss worthy in its own right.
Yeah, it's a meat grinder. A terrible, evil meat grinder.
That's as awesome as fighting a gazebo.
I actually beat it. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it's hard. There's a very specific strategy you need to do, and it's not easy to pull off. It's definitely harder than any mass combat battle I've ever fought in a Suikoden game. So if that says something, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't say it was easy to beat, but I did manage it at one point.
Yeah.
After I beat the actual final boss of the game twice over. Of course, which also means the new Game Plus feature where you can it opens up every single scenario in the game for you to play in any order that you wish.
Can you use any character for that, or just a particular team?
No, I mean, it's whichever characters are set for that scenario. But the levels or the material available can vary a bit. So you can take on some of the earlier scenarios and do it a lot better beforehand, or some of the scenarios with the optional bosses, like that super frog monster guarding the golden axe, is a lot easier to take out if you're better prepared than you are the first time you go through the game. So.
Or it's like that one tree boss.
Yeah.
Wait, there's a tree boss? Is this the same like Suikoden?
So you didn't get far enough in the game
I like to get my
compare it
hits
to
on
Suikoden,
Suikoden
I
4
take it?
because as much as I love it, it's dumb.
I know, I haven't actually played the Suikoden, so I have no idea what you're talking about there.
In Suikoden 4, the final boss is a giant tree.
Final Fantasy V, the final boss is a giant tree.
An awesome tree, though. He doesn't count.
No, Suikoden 4's was not an awesome tree. It was a turtle tree made by a crazy man who liked old ladies.
What?
I joke. I
sense that we're getting significantly derailed here.
It's my job.
Unless we want to talk about Golbez, which, yeah, he's pretty cool.
No Golbez. Wrong game.
Okay, well, think about it.
Hey, I hear Kefka is pretty cool.
Wheels, how far have you gotten in the game?
Oh, wow. It was a long time ago. Just a few hours in.
I said Wheels, not Willis, actually. Sorry, it's too many Michaels in this. I'm having to start using everything.
I'm defending a city from pirates. And this is only the second Will Knight story I've done so far.
Well, then that's like the fourth Will Knight story total, and there's one minor point of plot deviation I was going to mention, but I'm not going to because it happens at the end of that scenario and won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty much a spoiler.
I already because I've gone and done there was a choice to do the Will Knight story or the Gustav one, and I've already done the Gustav one and didn't like how it ended, so I thought maybe something would change if I did this one instead.
No, there's a minor change that happens, but it's only specific to Will's storyline, and it really depends on who you leave back with the thieves in City of the Night or whatever the place was called.
Interesting.
Okay.
Thing.
Yeah, you might be
so
better
the bad
off
thing
actually starting and doing it equally on both sides at this point. But,
yeah. So what you're saying is Gustav is going to die, and I was wasting my time trying to avoid it.
Yeah, he's doomed.
49 when he dies.
If that happens. But, but it's such a wonderful apotheosis there. Okay, I mean, it's not a meaningless death by any means.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like somebody just goes and assassinates him, even though somebody does try.
You mean it's not one of those? Aw, that's depressing.
So-
No, yeah.
So it's not like some
Is that-
random character
Cool.
gets stabbed through the chest by a giant long sword, and then there's sad music.
No,
Hey,
no,
I want
not
that
like
song
that.
at my funeral.
Girl for forever.
Hey. We don't
That
ever
would be
speak
good-
of her
that
death
would be
around
good.
me. Not acceptable. She never died. Ever. Lies. I'll go back to reading my book.
Okay.
Sorry, it's the 2 hours of sleep talking at this point.
So, any other thoughts on SaGa Frontier 2?
It's pretty.
It's very pretty, very challenging, has some
It's
really unique aspects
beautiful.
of battle system.
It really does have a good story. There's a lot of, that does the whole multi-generation thing better than you typically see it.
Probably better than Phantasy Star 3.
Yeah.
Well, Phantasy Star 3
Yeah.
did it first and
Yeah.
thus was easily improved upon.
Sorry, I also have to take my pot shots on that game when I can.
I haven't even finished this yet, and I can already say that it does it better than Phantasy Star 3.
Again,
Every
by being
game
pretty
does
much
better than...
Oh, Sam.
Everything's better than Phantasy Star 3. We've established this.
It's
Remember
true.
that backtrack? Yeah.
Man,
Yes,
I'm sorry I
Phantasy
missed
Star
that.
3 is not great, but I would not say that everything is better than it. And neither would you.
I have played games that were technically worse than Phantasy Star 3, and I don't really wish to remember them right now. I'm sorry.
I'm
Because
sure that,
Phantasy Star 3
all...
just had such a nice low bar for success. And anything that manages to do the limbo
Mr.
under this bar is...
Remember a certain game that I talked about not too long ago, which I would most definitely classify under Phantasy Star 3, don't you?
What, you mean Silver?
Oh my
You
god.
remember one that I pounded to the
Forgot
mat
about this
bloodily.
Oh
Silver?
yeah,
Silver was one that you
Heroes
had
of
to-
Mana.
Silver?
Yeah.
I remember Silver.
Sorry, it's just always fun
Oh,
to
you
bring
played
the rage
Silver
out on
too?
that one.
Why did you make
No.
me remember Silver? Why would you do that? This is a saga night. It's supposed to be a night of joy.
Because Sam had to bring us into the topic of badness. Thank you, Sam.
I love you, boys.
You know what's funny? Phantasy Star 3 was the first Phantasy Star game I played.
You poor
Interesting.
soul.
And there's more to this story, you see, because I had asked for Phantasy Star 2 for Christmas, but some fine young gentleman at a Funkoland told my parents that they would be better off getting 3 for me, and that's what they bought.
Your parents were easily swayed.
I guess so.
Like my grandma, when she bought me Final Fantasy IV, even though I already had it, because she knows absolutely nothing about video games.
Am I the only one who had a parent who was actually really good about that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mommy,
My
I want
parents-
Tales of
my
the Abyss
grandmother-
for Christmas.
Oh,
I got
I know my grandpa gave me a little booklet full of rental coupons for the local Farmore, so I just rented a couple Game Boy games every week for a year. It was cool.
That's awesome.
That's how I discovered the Final Fantasy Legend series and Final Fantasy
Nice.
Adventure. Yeah, because those were the only RPGs they had. So cool.
That was a gift that just kept on giving, sounds like.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was very happy that year.
Meanwhile, my dad plays occasional browser games for 5 minutes between work shifts, and my mother plays nothing at all.
Yeah, I don't have that problem. My mom, she knows the ending of Suikoden's 1 through 5 because she watched me beat them. My mom was a bad gamer.
Yeah, I remember my mom just walking around in the background occasionally and commenting on how pretty the music was for various Final Fantasies and Sagas and other games. So she really liked the ending tune for Final Fantasy IX, actually.
My mom yelled from the other room to turn it down when I was playing a game and she was watching something on the TV.
My mother would keep commenting about how the heads and all of the characters in RPGs were much bigger than their bodies. And why does it have to be that way? Why can't they just draw them regular?
So that they can have more recognizable head
shape. My parents used to
shape.
make that same comment.
You know, I tried...
Then they'd look as ugly as Final Fantasy VIII, Phil. Jeez.
I tried to explain all of that to her, but she wouldn't listen. Okay.
You know, Squall? Remember? He didn't have a face.
But this is not the mom backtrack. This is the RPG backtrack.
Aww. But it's my mom's birthday tomorrow.
It sounds like your mom is the only one who could actually contribute anything to the backtrack anyway.
Okie dokie. So, final thoughts on SaGa Frontier 2. You got 30 seconds to tell everybody why they should go out and buy it. Go.
Because it's a very pretty, very cool game, and it's really not like anything else on the system in many ways.
This is true. Anybody else?
And this is mostly a good thing.
Anybody else?
I'll just echo what he said.
Yeah.
What he said. All right.
Plus more music. Plus more praise of its music.
Yes.
Beautiful soundtrack.
We should listen. We should listen to some of that music.
Actually, Phil, we never really did a wrap up for the first SaGa Frontier, did we?
Well, actually, I think. Well, Sam did a pretty good job. Actually, she sounded just like me. I didn't even know why I was here. Sam was just kind of leading everybody else, sounding exactly like me. I just sat here and drank some more whiskey.
I'm sorry, Phil.
No, you were awesome. You were like, okay, you go. You're just like me. You're awesome.
I learned from the best.
I'm giving Sam the Golden Mike Award for the year. We should give out end of the year awards at RPG Backtrack. We should do that.
Best games we replayed.
Yeah. Anywho, let's let our audience listen to some of that wonderful SaGa Frontier music, and we'll be right back. And we are back, and we're ready to do our blast from the recent past. And this is pretty recent because I remember beating this not too long ago. We are talking about tonight Might and Magic Clash of Heroes. This is developed by Capybara Games, published by Ubisoft. This was released on your Nintendo DS in North America on December 1st, 2009. Later on Xbox Live, April 13th, and PSN on April 12th in 2011. And also, not too long ago in Steam, around September 22nd, 2011. This is a puzzle, action, adventure, RPG, single-player, multiplayer experience rated 10 plus because apparently matching up monsters is very violent. We want the 9-year-olds doing that. So let me start off. Let me start off first because I am a huge fan of Heroes of Might and Magic. I have all 5 games with all their expansions. I have sunk hundreds of hours into them. I love Heroes of Might and Magic. It's what I live for. I've even played some of the Might and Magic RPGs, most notably Might and Magic 7, and I think we did that on the Backtrack some time ago. I don't know. I've drank too much to remember. But but so when Clash of Heroes was coming out and they were talking about, I saw some previews and they were talking about a puzzle game of some sort. Oh man, my face just turned sour. You know, I love normal RPG, the RPGs, Might and Magic games of the old. 9 was a bomb, but the rest of them were pretty good. I love the Heroes of Might and Magic series games, even the ones that weren't so perfect. I just love that formula. And now you're going to throw a puzzle game my way? What the heck? This is what happens when, I remember, what was it, the company that had it before went out of business and now Ubisoft has them, and I was kind of expecting some things would get changed, but holy cow. So I was very, very pessimistic, very skeptical when before the game came out, but it came out, got some very interesting reviews, so I went out, grabbed myself a copy, and I could not put it down. Even though this game has no story-wise and gameplay-wise, I think it does actually have somewhat of a weak
It does
link.
have a direct tie.
Yeah, with the storyline.
Direct tie to 5.
But the game, yeah, with 5. But the gameplay, which in all honesty, I never really cared much about the story in any of these games. But the gameplay, of course, has no link. But let me tell you what, it's as addictive as hell. So in Might and Magic, oh boy, yeah, Sam, you played this, right?
Well, actually, I should just preface this by saying that I've actually met the developers who made this game.
Yeah, but you played it, right? Have you played it?
Well, of course, I did the review.
Okay, cool. So let's just for the moment, just focus on one thing at a time here. Talk about the gameplay and why it's so we know why it's so much different than Heroes of Might and Magic or Might and Magic the RPG. What's the gameplay like?
Okay, well,
that's huge.
When I first had the chance to play this, I was at Capybarad's office here in Toronto, and I knew nothing about the game at all. It was just I saw it being advertised in the Toronto Star, and I thought, okay, I better go check what this is. Andrew Long, the HR guy, he and I actually went down, and we sat and we talked with them, and we had the chance to sit there and play the game. We were only supposed to be there for about an hour, and we ended up playing for about 2.5 on the dev copies that they gave us. This game is really addictive because it's all about, building walls and launching armies. The whole idea is that you're stacking based on color. So if you have a bunch of green dudes who are all, every unit has its own color. Each unit is stacked by size. So you have your small, medium, and large enemy battle types. You have to match, I think it's 3 or 4, Phil. It's been a while for me.
You have to make it 4. I think you have to get 4.
Yeah, it's 4. Yeah. So you have 4 connected.
They
make
3. Well, 3 in a lot.
3 or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
I just can't remember because it's been a while for me since I played and reviewed it. But the idea is you match them together based on color, and they have a turn order. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a turn order, and it tells you how long it's going to take for them to perform their turn. And the idea, of course, is that you need to clear, obviously, all the enemies from the opposing side. Now, not every battle is structured this way, as there's a few where, for an example, you use your armies to knock switches or barriers. The infamous tree battle, where you have to, save somebody from the tree. Then there's the unique boss battles, which also require you to plan, if possible, obviously, the way your turn orders would work, because you might only be able to hit certain parts of the boss, depending on how fast your turn order was, because if they moved out of the way, then obviously, that was a wasted turn. This game is just addictive. You could sit there and pour hours into it and not realize that you're doing it. I mean, I spent a good chunk of the time playing this on the bus on my way to work when I was back working at the university. And I would just sit there on the bus and I would do puzzle after puzzle after puzzle because I just couldn't get enough of it. It was I didn't care about the exploration. I didn't really care about the story. I just wanted to keep the puzzles going.
Yeah, and those puzzles are basically the battle mechanics. The puzzle is pretty much the same thing. The RP element is in the fact that as you go through these battles, you do gain experience points, as well as your different troop types gain experience points. So they will level up. So if you're used to using a certain type of troop over and over again, they'll become more effective over the long run. And your hero will get experience points, and his or her stats will also increase, such as how strong their walls are, how much their overall attack is, or whatever the deal is. So there's some...
and don't forget, Phil, they also all had a special attack that would fill as they got hits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So every character had their own unique special attack that they could use.
Right. So...
yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let's say, Arwen the Elf, she had an arrow that once the bar was full, you could set the arrow anywhere you wanted on the screen and it would launch. And you could just hit anything that was in its path. The second character, I know his was a wall, I want to say. Like, he would just create a wall, and then that would protect you for a couple turns. There was the one with the undead skill, which, for the life of me, I don't remember what the undead skill does. I think it's just it gives you more skeletons or more whatever undead creature you're using, I want to say. It's been a while.
Didn't the undead one, turn all your walls into a giant attack or something?
Yes, that was what it was. It would take your walls.
Like
it would take your walls and use them to make a massive attack. You're right. You're absolutely right. I couldn't remember because it's, like I said, it's been a while. You've played it far more recently, I think, than me or Phil.
Yes, but
I just released over here. Was it released?
I could just send you my copy.
Oh, feel free sometime.
Wait till Christmas when you get your Skittles.
Okay.
You still have to be tutorial.
But Skittles aren't available in Japan either?
What? No, I know of one store that used to sell Skittles, but they stopped doing it in 2006.
My God,
what happened to the Skittle market?
Live.
And I haven't seen them in any of those stores since then. And this is the same store that only randomly stocks Goldfish crackers. But
well, I have to ask you then: have you ever seen sour Skittles?
Yes, I have. They burn my tongue.
I don't think I sent you any of that the last time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what Scott picked.
If it's not the peppermint ones or the chocolate flavored ones, I am down with that. It's good. Okay. But anyway, I'm gonna check out now since I have absolutely nothing to really contribute to this conversation except, oh wow, that sounds cool. So.
Yeah, no. They made an HD version, which Michael.
We can't do much about the fact that Japan has not yet seen fit to release the game anywhere, unfortunately.
Evil.
At least I don't think it has. I guess I could always check that font of wisdom Wikipedia.
No, Wikipedia doesn't show a Japanese release. It just shows North America and Europe.
Yeah, it doesn't even have a Japanese language page to it, so yeah, there's no Japanese release. Okay.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah. And heck, Magination got a Japanese release. I even reviewed it. So. Oh well.
We'll bid you a good night. Thanks for being on the Backtrack tonight. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, glad to be on.
You are certainly a fount of Saga knowledge, and without you, this would have been a much less interesting cast, I'm certain.
Oh no, I'd like to be on the Star Ocean one, but I think I'm going to be in the air during that podcast. So.
Well, that's far enough in advance that I may be able to jigger something.
Wait, you want to be on where Adrian and I are going to yell at Star Ocean 4?
Oh, I'm going to be on just long enough to talk about Star Ocean Blue Sphere, which I'm going to dig out my Game Boy Advance and play sometime over Christmas vacation.
And you played the Super Famicom version of the original game, right?
Yes, I did.
Which I understand was very, very different when it came to PSP, so that would be very useful.
I'll have to replay that one again, too. I'll have to dig it out. In fact, actually, I think it's in America right now, so I can play that over this Christmas holiday, too. Okay, well, see you guys later.
Good night.
Good day, good sir.
Well, it's only 1:40 in the afternoon where I am. I'm going to go get something else to eat. So, talk to you guys later. Bye.
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 So how about that HD remix?
Oh, jeez.
Yes, the fantastic HD remake.
Well,
Where
before we jump on that, but let's finish talking about exactly how the game works first, just before we talk
Sure.
about how it got improved, because there was also a strategy element to it. So the one part that might appeal to Heroes of Might and Magic people is the fact that as your hero's going around and you're kicking all these bad guys' butt or whatnot, you will find crystals and ore, is it, or something like that, and money that you use to buy the higher level troops and troop replacements for those higher level troops. So you find that kind of out there. It's not a big mechanic. I didn't lose troops enough to where, I mean, I'm pretty protective of my higher level troops, and I had a heart attack every time one of them died. Because that's the one kind of little irritating thing is if you summoned a high level troop on the board, if for some reason he got his rear end handed to him, you realize you were going to have to buy a replacement to keep your stock full on that. And so there is a bit of that kind of felt like Heroes of Might and Magic, because the same thing in Heroes of Might and Magic, you could only afford so many of the higher level troops, and if they die, you felt every single one of their deaths in your pocketbook, if nothing else. So that kind of was very reminiscent of the old Heroes of Might and Magic series. But I shouldn't call it old because they just came out with 6. But so I wanted to put that kind of out there too. You do play 5 different characters. Each one of them has different abilities, different focuses, and how they play on the board. And it's kind of refreshing because right when you kind of feel like the gameplay's getting a little stale, they throw you a new character who handles a little bit differently, and it kind of renews your interest again. Though I kind of felt like leveling up 5 characters in a row real fast was, by the time I got to the 5th character, I was pretty well ready to be done with that idea. And you get an artifact, right? You get an artifact or something that you can equip that can also help. Very much like Heroes of Might and Magic, you can equip. Heroes of Might and Magic lets you equip multiple items. At least the older ones did. In this game, you get to equip one artifact that, in a similar fashion, enhances your troop capabilities or your capabilities as the leader of the armies. And like Heroes of Might and Magic, like you were saying, Sam, your hero's basically on the background, watching all the troops fight and throwing a little magic spell in every now and then as part of their special ability. But they're also the ones with the hit points. So when the troops can't protect them anymore, the hero takes damage. And when the hero dies, you lost. And you're trying to do the same thing most of the time to their end. But it's still very puzzly at the same time because sometimes you got these big boss battles that are very puzzly in how you must approach them. It's a very good combination of puzzle and strategy, I think. As far as how you approach things. You can approach things in different directions. It's not like a puzzle where there's just one solution or just 2 solutions they figured out ahead of time that you got to figure out, but rather you can approach most of those attacks with the enemies in any variety of ways, just like a strategy game. Though there are some boss battles that you have to figure out some special mechanics on. So now, with that being said, the DS game was absolutely fabulous, and it was just really well reviewed, really well received, and apparently so well sold that they went ahead and made some HD remakes. Which I'll open up the floor to somebody else to talk about those.
I could talk about that since I reviewed the HD version.
Go ahead.
When I first heard about this, I didn't really know how a remake, HD update of a DS game would go, but they actually did quite a fantastic job. They obviously redid all the sprites, brought them to HD, added in some nice HD backgrounds. There's some interface things that make it look kind of weird in HD. Like, obviously the game's oriented around being played on 2 screens on the DS, so when they translated that to HD, you kind of have some unused space on the sides that they kind of tried to cover up with some backgrounds that didn't always work. But I mean, other than that, it's, the gameplay obviously translates perfectly, and they did a great job with the graphics. They, the storyline graphics has kind of got that Japanese RPG tradition of the the little talking portraits, and it's got a great look to it. So kudos to them for really not just kind of throwing the DS graphics up there or something like that. They really went full out remaking that game game, and it's just as good as it was on the DS. Now, I've only played a little bit of the DS version, and I think they changed around some of the character abilities between the versions. Some of the spells are a little different, but I don't know if they made any other tweaks than that. But for the most part, it's the DS game with prettier graphics.
Yeah, I remember reading that they were redoing some of those graphics, or not graphics, but the abilities, tweaking some of them, making them a little bit more, because some of the artifacts were pretty useless. So they were going to kind of tighten those up a little bit. Might have made some gameplay balances too, as was kind of necessary. Now, I do have it on my PlayStation 3, and I played through the first couple of chapters. I haven't gotten too far on that one just yet because I've been pretty busy. But yeah, it does look. They did about as good a job as they could do. It's kind of ironic because you're playing this game that's meant to be played on two screens that are arranged vertically, but you're playing it on one widescreen monitor, so you see all this wasted space on the sides. You almost kind of wish you could just turn your television 90 degrees and play it that way, and then it would look probably, really awesome. But
I wonder if they would have been better served kind of switching the orientations of the battles, so it was kind of
would have really hurt to somehow switch the orientation horizontally. I don't really think so, but because I will say I got like a 35-inch television, and it's hard to see some of the colors and numbers on some of those enemies. So if you're sitting 4 feet back or so that can be a little rough sometimes. But with that being said, it's still very gorgeous, and the gameplay is compelling, definitely very, very compelling. So I have no problem just suffering through the teeny tiny numbers and just working my way through it because it's just too much fun.
Oh, absolutely.
The colors get me once in a while too, for some reason on the PlayStation version. Because you'll have like the deer, that one deer has a green trimming, one has a blue trimming. And the whole thing about this game is in the battles, you're trying to connect your troops of the same color so that they activate. And once they activate, there's so many turns before they rush forward and attack. It's turn-based. So it's important that you know that your deer has a blue ribbon on him or a green ribbon on him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 'cause I've wasted a few turns because on the PlayStation version on my television, because I thought he had a blue ribbon and he had a green ribbon, or vice versa. Thankfully, most of the monsters, they're like completely blue or completely green, so or gold or whatever the case may be. So it's not a prominent issue. It was just on the deer that I remember when I was playing through the forest level. So,
I actually remember that issue as well. But you like you said, for the most part, it's easy to tell.
Yeah, it's easy. So, I think it took me about how long did it take to get through the game? About 15, 20 hours or so, maybe 25. It's kind of hard to tell because I did
in that range.
Yeah, I did it through multiple sessions and stuff. So I'm not super sure.
There's some little side quests you can do, so you can lengthen it out a bit. There's definitely side quests you can do. You can pick up some extra, and that kind of makes it feel more RPG. In flavor, you can pick up side missions. You can do little, like you said, I keep repeating myself, but side quests and stuff for people that are around, and they'll provide extra bonuses. It's worth doing because you're not only going to get whatever they're willing to pay out as far as crystals and gold go for doing the missions, but you'll get extra experience as well. And I think that's the biggest resource in the game. Games like this, where experience becomes a resource in and of itself. Leveling up is important. It can really help you in some of the more difficult battles. So it's not usually wise to pass up any opportunity for experience points. So, and I was like looking for opportunities sometimes just to get into battles, but as long as you're taking them on, you usually have no problem being the max level, which is 10 for any given character before you make it to the end of that chapter. Cool.
And the art style, yeah, it's kind of an anime art style, which I personally find attractive. It's very reminiscent of Heroes Might and Magic 5. If you've seen 5, you kind of know what to expect here. It's, Heroes of Might and Magic 2 was very cartoony, but it was American cartoony. 3 went for a more realistic style. 4 kind of carried that on, and that's when, dang it, for the life of me, I can't remember. Oh, 3DO went the way of the dinosaur, and Ubisoft took them over. When Ubisoft released Heroes of Might and Magic 5, it came with a more anime flavor to it. It wasn't super anime, but it was just a touch. I loved it. I loved the fact that the characters were just slightly exaggerated. It's kind of like that. Not quite World of Warcraft. It's not that far into cartoon land, but it was just enough to make you to give it that manga flair. So this one is Heroes or Clash of Heroes is definitely very mangaized. You definitely got anime characters when you're looking at the pictures of them talking. And I like the artwork myself, but that was just me. Don't really remember much about the music. Was the music good?
It was decent enough.
Yeah, I don't remember much about the music. I was too busy playing it over, playing battles over and over again. They're so much fun. It's one of those games, it's good praise, but it's one of those games where you want to get into fights. You just want to fight.
Absolutely.
Just so you can match up things and just watch them rush forward. And the other thing that I can't sing enough about this game, it is well balanced. I don't know how many RPGs I've played where the enemies are too easy or too hard or you got to needlessly grind. In this game, this is one of those games where as long as you, especially if you're just going to grind as you go along as far as making sure you do all the side quests, taking the opportunity to take any extra fights that are available, which aren't that many, you will find that the boss battles and the end encounters are very much going to give you a challenge, and you will have to think about what you're doing in order to pull off successes. But as long as you think about what you're doing, that's what I love so much. Then you most of the time will get away with the victory. Unlike I'm playing Dissidia right now. And in Dissidia, there are just some enemies, especially some of the bosses, where it really just comes down to luck. You spam the same attack and you just hope you hit him. If you hit him first, you're going to win. If you get hit first, you're going to lose. This is not the case with Might and Magic. You think your move's out, a few moves ahead. You take a look at what your enemy's doing, and you kind of plan to block him when you need to block, and you'll usually come out ahead. So I have to give them credit for making it pretty darn balanced.
Oh, absolutely. They just all around the gameplay systems were just very well designed.
And they nailed it on the first try. They nailed it on the DS version. I mean,
yeah, they did.
That was what was really astounding. And now I'm playing the PlayStation version. It's tweaked even further. I remember. So I've gone through the DS version, so I should be an expert at this now. But I remember booting up the PlayStation and having to bite my fingernails a little bit on some of those battles, thinking, "Hot dang! If I played the DS version, I've got 20 hours underneath my belt. I don't know about the noob who just came to the table." This is definitely a game that you gotta be ready to bring your A game, and you gotta be ready to bring your thinking cap. You're not gonna just hack and slash and match a few colors like Bejeweled and think you're gonna get ahead. So, alrighty. I personally, I can't praise this game enough. I would have. I don't remember if I did a review on it or not, but I think I would have given it a 4 or 4.5.
I reviewed it. I gave it a 4.
Awesome.
I believe I gave it a 4 as well.
Awesome. You two can stay on the show.
We have like 4 reviews for the game. All of them gave it a 4.
Yes, that's right.
Didn't Anna review it too?
Anna and Mac did.
Coolly. Is there anything?
There's only one dissenter among all the people we know who have played the game, and his view doesn't count.
His view doesn't count.
I'll never forget the hate email I got. That was so amazing.
Oh boy.
It's okay. I expected it at one point or another.
And given the fact that it's now on the X,
good old hate mail.
You're right. So it's on the Xbox, it's on the PlayStation Network, it's on your PC, and it's on your Nintendo DS, which works on your 3DS, because I know everybody has a 3DS. Yeah, there's really very little reason not to give this guy a try. So, and you can find. Oh, we should look up the prices, right, Mike? Isn't that what we do on this show? We should.
We didn't even look up the prices for SaGa Frontier.
Oh my gosh, we didn't look up the price of SaGa Frontier. Oh my gosh, what is our problem? We're slipping. All right, because we know after listening to our show, everybody, because you can't get SaGa Frontier. Now, listen to this, people. This is very important, okay? Because now that we've done this show, and we've given SaGa Frontier pretty much a thumbs up, 1 and 2, we know that demand's about to skyrocket, okay? So if you're listening to the show, as soon as it hits the servers, you need to go out and buy a copy right away. Because the value's just going to go up now that everyone's listening to Backtrack. The demand's just going to go through the roof. So SaGa Frontier 1, you can grab that guy used if you don't mind getting a case or not getting a case or whatever have you. You can get that for about 20, 25 bucks.
Not bad.
There is one copy that says it's got some light wear on it for $10 from Nevada. That's probably a good deal right there. But the other copies I'm seeing are about 20, 25 range. Some people are selling them as high as $70. So,
is there anything special about those copies?
He says he's got the manual and the jewel case, but it's not shrink wrap, so I'm not sure what he's thinking. Of course, he's got an 88% rating, so perhaps he's not exactly the brightest candle on the cadaver there. Anyway, we have SaGa Frontier 2, and that one is similarly going for about $20 used. If you're not too picky about whether or not it comes with instructions and as such. There is a gentleman selling it brand new. He's got a great 100% rating for a small price of only $65. So I doubt the shrink wrap is worth $65. So use your own discretion there. A Clash of Heroes, you can buy that on Steam or any of those. It can't be more than $10 to $15. I mean, hell. I mean, it's a downloadable game.
I'd buy it for twice that price.
Yeah, easily. Now I bought it brand new when it came out for, what was it, $30, $35? I remember the day I went out and bought it because Shirley and I were out shopping and I saw it on the shelf there and I kind of impulse bought it and holy cow, I tore through it. On one hand, I felt kind of bad that I spent $30, $35 in a game and beat it in like 20 hours. But, I mean, I tore through it in like 1 week, but that's how it kept me glued to it. Most of my games I buy and they take months for me to beat because I don't play but a few hours a week. But Clash of Heroes, man, just sucks you in. Anyways, if you don't have access to an Xbox or PlayStation and you're not a person who likes to play on the computer, you want to play on your DS, you can grab a used copy of that easy enough for about $15. Even brand new in a shrink wrap is not much more expensive than that. So there's definitely many ways to get your Clash of Heroes on. You know what, Mike? We should ask a really tough question today. Yeah, because maybe I'll give away a copy of Clash of Heroes. Haha. Nah, I don't have time to go to the post office. It's the holidays. I still haven't got Mike's little gift out. I know I send out Mike's. I gotta send out somebody else's. All right, cool. Well, that was awesome. Well, we'll be right back after these commercial messages. Well, it's not really a commercial message. It's music, but we'll be right back anyways.
These entertaining messages.
Entertaining musical messages. Yeah. We'll be right back. Trip around the final lap. Right, Mr. Minky? Mr.
Sure.
Minky left. No, he's there. All right. Mr. Minky, I understand that some people had some comments for us on the boards. Mr. Von Beardley, for example, said that he has not gotten around to installing Freedom Force yet. What the hell, Von Beardley? What are you thinking, man?
Okay, let's see what his justification was. There was some justification.
There's no justification. Something about I end up, losing power during a sandstorm. I don't care. You got power if you can post this on the internet. If you can post that I haven't got Freedom Force installed yet, you could have installed Freedom Force. It's not that big of a game. Let's see here. He says, in regards to wizardry for the PSN, the game gets much easier once you find better equipment. That, of course, means lots of fighting, which is true. And wizardry on the PlayStation Network is very much an old school, go and grind your ass off dungeon, old school dungeon crawler. But, if you're not careful, you'll get your butt really, really kicked. So, he said, I did manage to get a lot of decent equipment on Shin Dungeon level 4. Train everyone as a bishop at some point so everyone has every spell before you put them in the final class you want them as. My final priority so far is Samurai, Samurai Lord, Ninja, Bishop. Apparently, if you can find a katana called Muramasa, it can one-hit kill the bosses. So, there's food for thought. But wait, there's more. Right, Mike?
Well, we can talk about Shaman being justifiably flabbergasted at the price of a brand new Paper Mario copy. Though again, I would not recommend paying for a brand new shrink-wrapped copy of Paper Mario when it is easily available through other methods.
Indeed. Kisaki Project says, man, this is going to be controversial. I hated Paper Mario 64.
But this is amazing. This is one of the very, very few N64 games that was not subtitled 64. Isn't that amazing?
Well, this is true, too. It says, I did not appreciate the humor. Well, you know what? I have to kind of side with Kisaki on that one. I've never been a big fan of the Paper Mario series humor. Every time I play them and they're cracking little kitty-type jokes, I'm thinking maybe the 7-year-olds get it, but there's not too many times I actually laugh when I'm sitting in the, let's see, this was around the same time I got in a PS1 and played through most of the Amazing Library. So when I got to Paper Mario, you kept putting 64 at the end, and we know that shouldn't be there. I was just massively underwhelmed. Never got the GameCube one. So, I don't know. But he says we're wrong? What do you mean he wrongs? What? You guys are just wrong. What? We're not wrong. We're always right at RPG Backtrack. What are you talking about?
Apparently, he just came out of the Bizarro world. That's my synopsis.
And
then Paz said, well, why is that controversial? Because he went against everybody on the cast, apparently.
Yeah. But that's not controversial. It just means we're right and he's wrong. That's all. There's nothing to argue. Controversial means that there's an argument about something. There's room for debate. There's really no room for debate. See, you either agree with us and you're right, or you don't agree with us and you're completely wrong. So that's all right.
Phil, you got to admit, this is less insane than to openly affirm that Twilight is a bastion of literary greatness and that no one should ever make fun of it because it's so beautiful and everyone in it is such a fully formed character with such complex personalities and such rich subtext to all of the material that scholars will spend decades examining, looking at, and learning all about human society. See, now that would be a statement of true insanity.
Well, unless, of course, you're watching the Rift Tracks version, in which case it does become literary art in motion. You have got to see it. RiftTracks.com, people. I'm just plugging that in. All right.
Oh, man, and the badger just killed the cameraman, and now the camera's spinning into the sky.
I'm telling you, it's something. So, and Ombre says, that's what I like about this forum, that you have the right to an opinion about any game and no one's going to flame you about it. It's nice, in the contrary, to have so many different opinions. After all, we are our own person with our own taste. And that's right. You are welcome to go to board.rpgamer.com. You can post about any of our podcasts we've done at RPG Backtrack. Let us know your thoughts and opinions. Just understand, of course, that if you don't agree with us, you're wrong. We won't flame you. We won't argue with you to death. What's there to argue? You come on the forums and you say the sun is blue. What's there to argue? You're wrong. That's all. We're not going to flame you about it. It's cool. So, anywho.
This is exactly how we need to handle more forum discussions.
Yeah, I mean, really, it would really cut down on the stress if we just said, hey, Phil and Mike are always right, and everybody else was always wrong. It's really cuts down on the needless postings back and forth.
Sam, what's your stance on this?
I was asleep on my desk.
Yay!
Oh.
Yay!
Okay, then we'll take that as agreement.
That's right. Once again, somebody else agrees with us, and that's awesome because that means they are right. So, Mr. Let's do our plugs for the night, Mr. Nathan. Is there anything you would like to plug to our vast audience of millions who are listening with a bated breath to this podcast, waiting for your every word to drip from your lip? What do you wish to plug to them tonight?
I'm not sure what to say. Be careful when playing Skyrim, because apparently during the recording of this broadcast, my brother might have overwritten my Skyrim save simply by starting a new game. And this was not warned. So, I might need to deal with that soon.
Get out. So, what we'll be next week will be all mourning the death of Nathan's brother, who erased his save game on Skyrim. Well, at least he didn't erase your game after you actually put millions of hours into it, I suppose. But dang.
No, just a couple of days. Finally bought a house.
Oh my goodness, you bought a house. That is so freaking expensive in that game. Oh man, we'll all come to his funeral. Just send me an invitation. But are you enjoying the game so far? Skyrim's out. I know a lot of my friends are playing it.
I've only been playing it for a couple of days, but Skyrim is fun. I'm not really a Western RPG guy, but this is far and away the most fun I've ever had with Western RPG. I haven't played an old Souls game before. That's my caveat. But
have you played? Have you played Oblivion before?
No.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. But you're enjoying Skyrim. That's interesting.
Patrick Stewart. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, we'll give you some more time with it, Nathan. When you're on a future show with us, you'll have to give an official recommendation to our audience, and if you do a full review, of course, you'll want to plug that so that everybody can go and run and read it. Mr. Apps, how about you?
Yes.
Anything you would like to plug to our vast audience of thousands and millions and billions?
Two things.
Go for it.
Number one, Uncharted 3 is the best non-RPG I've played in a long time.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful. It's like watching a movie in motion.
Love that game so much.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, if you ever go on a cruise, a PSP Go loaded up with tons of old PS1 games. It's a great thing to have along with you.
And that's I don't have the PSP Go, but I have the PSP 2 or 3 or whatever it's up to now, 3000 or whatever, with a 16 gig stick, and I pretty much do the same thing. And I play a bunch of PS1 games. I was playing the Warriors, since y'all mentioned it earlier. I think it was before the cast y'all were talking about the Warriors. The game is really, really good. I'm a big fan of the movie, so awesome. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. I think the PSP is kind of a little underrated. And in all honesty, if someone come to me and say, what portable system should I get right now? I say, go on and get a PSP, because 3DS, not so much right now.
The last time I took a cruise was in 2000, so there was absolutely no option to use a PSP at the time.
And I get the I don't know if you have this. Oh no, you wouldn't have it on a Go. But I have the extended battery on it, and it lasts for 8-9 hours. It's awesome.
You can't even take out the battery on a Go.
Yeah, but the Go at least feels nice and smaller in your pocket, so that's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, I never wore out the battery that quickly, so just charged it up at night and it was fine.
Yeah, I think before I put the extended battery in it, which is like $40 on Amazon, the regular battery on the normal PSP with the disc running, here and there, I was probably getting about 3 hours or so of gameplay. Maybe 4 on a good day, if I was just running off of the memory card. So, just kind of depends on what you're running there. But yeah, I've got a friend with a PSP Go, so it's pretty awesome. If you have a PSP 3000 and a Go, does your game show up on both?
Yeah, you can download it to both. You can download it on up to 5 systems, and for games bought after some point this month, it's only 3. But if you have 2 PSPs, yeah, you can download it on both.
The wave of the future.
Yes. Of course, if you bought a bunch of UMD games, you are pretty much out of luck if you get a go.
Yeah, don't get a go if you have I have 50 UMDs. Don't do that if you have 50
Yeah.
UMDs like I do. I got a whole drawer full of UMDs. My UMDs have UMDs. Coolie beans. Cool. All right. Miss Marshmallow, you awake?
Yeah, I'm running on 2 hours of sleep.
Anything you want to plug?
2 things. Jim C. Hines' Princess series is absolutely awesome, and if you love fantasy novels, especially lighthearted ones, it's worth reading. Second, I posted a review for Rune Factory Tides of Destiny. It'll probably be my last review of the year, just because of personal crapola. That being said, is it the worst game I've ever played? No, but it did get a 2 out of 5.
Ooh, feel the burn.
And I was excited for this one, so that's part of the problem. Rune Factory Tides of Destiny is a game that unfortunately has a lot of glitches. At least the copy I was playing was a glitchy mess, because after I hit the water shrine, it was nothing but Glitch City, baby.
Ouch.
And I still managed to beat the game, but that was the most painful 80 hours I think I've ever put into something. And when 20 of those are fun, that's not a good sign.
Ooh, a 1 out of 4 ratio.
We'll give that an N for nasty.
There are people on the forums who are already saying, no, I'm wrong, and that's totally fine. I'm cool.
Well,
I don't hate, like I said, I don't hate the game. There's so much that I liked about it, but if I had not gotten all the problems that I had gotten, the game easily would have scored higher.
How many of those people on the forums, though, have played it completely through?
Well, that's what my argument is.
I mean, in all honesty, guys, those who are listening to us and whatnot, it's one. We've all had friends who picked up a game, start playing it, and they just hype the mess out of it. And I mean, that leads to a lot of other games being bought. And developers know this, so a lot of times they'll make the first, dozen hours. That's where they'll really focus some of their efforts on if they're crunched for time and stuff. But stick through the entire thing, and that's one of the things about RPGamer's reviews. We force our reviewers to play through the entire experience. And there are times where, unfortunately, partway through that game, it'll just fall apart because for whether it's bugs or they just didn't balance it well enough towards the end. That big boss that just kicks your rear end over and over again. That sort of thing really factors into our reviews, and you don't get that on a lot of other websites. You really don't. I don't know how many reviews I can easily discern now. How many of them just don't even play the game all the way through before they post their review? It's sad.
Yeah, see, I also played Rune Factory Tides of Destiny with a friend, and she was screaming and swearing just as much as I was, and her review's going to probably be posted in the next week or so.
Cool.
But she works for a different website, and therefore I shouldn't plug it.
No.
You can share your misery together. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's what we did for 2 whole weeks when we pulled all-nighters on it.
Your dedication to duty is outlandish and enviable.
Mr. Mink.
No, it's really not.
Mr. Minky, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Well, I could talk about a certain movie called Joe Kidd, which mostly demonstrates that even if you put him into a not great Western, Clint Eastwood is inherently awesome, and everything he does in this context is absolutely awesome, because Clint Eastwood is awesome, and if anybody disagrees, I will ignore you forever, because that opinion is absolutely invalid, and actually will not reach my eyes or ears. It is so outlandish and stupid that I refuse to acknowledge it could possibly exist.
No, the really cool thing about Clint Eastwood is that if you don't think he's the most awesome kick-butt person around, he comes over and kicks your ass. So that's okay. You either like him or you're dead.
When Clint Eastwood is having trouble with a couple of guys in his prison cell, and he is finally being taken before the judge, and his response is to first toss the contents of the food dish into some guy's face, wait for the guy to get it out of his eyes and get mad and jump at him, then bash him in the head with the pan, and then look at the other guy in the cell and go, "You want some?" that is just an awesome moment. And anyone who disagrees, go away. I honestly, I can't say the movie is great because it isn't, but it's got Clint, it's got Robert Duvall as the villain, and it's got John Saxon as a Mexican, but whatever. I can handle that.
Cool. Yeah, have you
other movies, but that's enough.
Have you done anything on the site lately that you want to plug?
Something directly related to this, like
no, just anything. You can plug anything.
Well, the SaGa Frontier review is the most recent thing I did, unless you count a poll I made, but that doesn't count. And yeah, I'm not going to dispute with anybody. I enjoyed SaGa Frontier in large chunks and was puzzled and baffled at other points. So that more or less mirrors in miniature what everybody else has been saying.
Cool. Well,
the thing I will review will be directly related to something that we will talk about in not too long of a time. So I'm not going to talk about it right now. I'll save it.
Well, I haven't really had the opportunity to play any computer console based RPGs lately. I've still been doing a lot of pen and paper Pathfinder type of stuff. It's too bad Mr. Scott Walkmater, or whatever his name is, isn't on here because I could chit chat with him about pen and paper because I've been doing a bucket load of pen and paper. But I did finally finish New Super Mario World or whatever it's called on the Wii. And now I'm playing the new one on the 3DS because I had a 3DS, and I'm looking for new games. I'm starved for new games to justify the purchase of the brand new 3DS. And so I rushed out to get that today, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm already halfway through it. So it's either incredibly short, it's incredibly fun, the time's just flying. I'm not really sure which one though. That's the scary thing. So it definitely feels a lot shorter. It feels significantly shorter than, let's say, New Super Mario World or Mario. Definitely, smaller than Mario Galaxy.
I hear there's a lot to do after you complete the main stages. Apparently.
Well, I know in New Super Mario World, I got through that last fight with Bowser, which was really awesome. I mean, it should. We do spoilers here, but dang nabbit, he takes up the whole freaking screen, comes chasing down your ass. Must have died like 8 times on there. Had to use up all my. What's the helicopter head? That's really the best way to get through that is to use the helicopter head before you go in and fight him. And I was glad I saved up all those helicopter heads. I'm the kind of person in those games that I save everything except for mushrooms. Because you can get all the mushrooms you want. That's not a problem. But then it opens up World 9. And I haven't really farted around with World 9 and New Super Mario. I'm not the kind of person that goes back and see how many coins I can collect or stuff. I just want to beat the game. So I saw the cute little 30-second ending. I'm happy. My life is complete. All is well with the world. But we'll see. We'll see how the DS version goes. But hopefully I don't get through it in the next 4 hours because I'll be pretty disappointed if it goes by that fast. Yeah, we'll see.
It's pretty fun though.
It so far, yeah. It's nice having a game that's in 3D that's using that whole 3D angle. Have you been playing it too?
Yeah, I just picked it up this morning. I've gotten through the first 2 worlds.
Yeah, and I'll give you a little hint. Go back and collect all the freaking big coins. Because I'm thinking it's like optional because there's these things that you can unlock with those coins. Like you unlock those extra boards with the coins, right? Which they don't explain in the instruction book. So I'm hoarding all the big, huge coins to begin with. And I saw that there are things that you could open with the big, huge coins. Well, in New Super Mario World, you can spend the big, huge coins to get hints and tips and videos. Well, I hoarded my big, huge coins there because how do I know? I might not need that big, huge tip on how to beat Bowser. I don't know, so I hoard. So in this game, I'm hoarding. And then I get to a certain world whose name I shall not mention. And I can't get any further until I have X number of big, huge coins. So yeah, it becomes a roadblock eventually. Alrighty, well, anyways, that's so far I'll say it's a half plug, but I think it'll be better. It's Mario. I mean, come on, it's Mario. How bad can it be? It's probably really
it's Mario.
It's Mario. It's me, Mario. And I'm sitting there. I walk into the EB to buy it. And I'm wearing the Mario shirt my mom got me a couple of years ago for Christmas. So I look like the total geek nerd or whatever. But anywho, and I pre-ordered Zelda with the fancy remote control.
So did I.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Awesome. Well, I figure I don't have a Wiimote Plus yet. It does have
Same here.
little stuff. I'm kind of a little bitter because I had a Nintendo Collector's Edition Nintendo 3DS that was Zelda and had the Triforce on it and everything.
Ooh.
And yeah, that was really awesome. It was like my little special thing. And I carried it with me everywhere I went. And that ended up being its downfall because I was in a public place, and I left it in the public place for all of 60 seconds. I wasn't gone more than a minute or two, and I immediately ran back down. It was gone. So I realized I had left it on a table, and I was like, oh crap, someone stole it. And it really, at that point, I had it for a few years, so it's probably not worth that much because it's pretty used, you know. I mean, it's been in my pocket. It's a little scratched, you know. I mean, I got little covers on the screens, but that's about it. So I don't take my 3DS outside my house for that reason. It stays here charging for the most part. My PSP goes where I go, though, a lot of times. Well, I don't even take that anywhere. Now you kind of do the cell phone. Did you hear that there was a big report that handheld gaming's going out the door? Is that true?
I've heard that.
Yeah. I don't know. The PSP might be the last big handheld device, gaming device. We'll have to keep an eye out. I hate for that to happen because I really don't think my cell phone's a great gaming device. It does take up those little bits of time, though, at the post office and stuff, where I used to carry my DS with me everywhere because I was afraid I'd have like 5 minutes not to do anything. I have kind of just left that to my handheld or my phone, and I'll read a book. But as far as playing games on, unless you're just really into Angry Birds, I don't know. I'm not seeing a lot of great RPGs on my cell phone.
Well, there's some good stuff on iPhone, but the problem I have is I don't want people calling me in the middle of a game. I don't really like it on my phone.
I've got an iPad, but I've got an Android phone. So I do have some of the games on the iPad, and I've talked about those on some of the previous Backtrack. I talked about the Spiderweb RPG I have, and I thought about getting some of the like Chaos Rings and stuff. But that's kind of $15, and I thought about it, but haven't really took the plunge on any really big one other than the Spiderweb. So.
Yeah. The one thing I don't like is
Go ahead.
I don't really know how like iPhones and stuff how they deal with the saved games. Like I had an old iPod Touch, and when I got my iPhone, I transferred all my apps there, but I had no idea how to transfer all my saved games. Now I've had to start all these games over.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
There's no way to just copy these saved files over.
When you sync your iDevice up with your computer, it doesn't do that when it syncs?
I don't know.
Huh.
I thought it did,
but apparently it didn't. Well, that's really bad. Yeah, I guess with Android it's a little bit easier only because everything on Android you can plug into a computer, see all the folders. Whereas with an iDevice, it doesn't quite work that way. It has to go through But yeah, the really cool games as far as those tablets and phones goes, really on the Apple devices, for the most part.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just games ported from elsewhere.
Yeah. So, speaking of Spiderweb games, and this kind of fits into the theme of RPG Backtrack. Because Spiderweb, for those who don't know, who haven't listened to a couple Backtracks ago, I talked about Spiderweb software. It's a very small studio. Last time I checked, they had 3 or 4 workers there. They work on very old school type PC old school type RPGs, turn-based combat type deals. Their main series is Avernum, and you'll go around, you'll eventually get a party of 4 people in each of those games. It kind of looks like Ultima meets a Gold Box D&D type of games, though it strips away a lot of the layers of complexity because leveling up and skills and all that aren't nearly as deep. They recently came out with an iOS game Oh, and for the life of me, my brain's hurting right now. I can't remember the name of it, but I talked about it a couple of backtracks ago. Anyways, what's really interesting is they have this series of games called Gene Forge, the Gene Forge Saga. It's 5 games, and in the game, you're usually playing. I don't know what the official terminology is, but you're playing a hero of some sort. He's a caster. He summons other beasts. Now you can usually pick a guy who specializes in summoning, or specializes in offensive magic, or specializes more in stealth. But for the most part, each of these guys can still summon other types of beasts. There's stories in each of the Gene Forge games. They tend to have deep stories where you can make very big decisions, such as joining certain guilds, and those decisions will have an impact on the ending, as well as what happens in the world around you. They can be pretty deep games. Now, I personally have never played 1 through, so I'm not speaking from personal experience, just from what I've read from other people who've reviewed them and played all the way through. Well, in the past, each of those Gene Force games are around $15-20 each. So if you want to buy all 5 of them, you'd have to invest. You could buy a CD. They sold a CD with all 5 of them for I think it was like $45 or $50 or something along those lines. And that would probably be okay. But again, we're talking about an independent, type of RPG in a day and age where people are used to paying $5 to $10 for games on their Apple and even on Steam. There's a lot of indie games for cheap. The Spiderweb games come off a little expensive, but on Steam, they just put it up a week or 2 ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. But they got the entire Gene Forge Saga for $20. It's awesome. Ooh. Yeah, all 5 games for $20. They had them on when they first put up there. They had on sale for $16. They had a 20% off more, so I scooped it up. Yeah, so I got even cheaper. But $16-20, it really doesn't matter. That is 5 really classic games. If you're into old school PC type of gaming where you're moving one character around with the mouse, isometric point of view, these are not going to be graphics that blow your mind away. This is classic PC game. This stuff looks like it could have been on a PC probably in 1997, 98-ish. We're talking
maybe earlier than that.
Yeah, maybe even earlier than that. Yeah. Depending on which one. Now, the Gene Forge looks a little bit better than the early Avernum titles, so I won't throw it too far back. I did play through the demo of Gene Forge. Gosh, I don't remember which one it was, 1 or 2. And I enjoyed the little bit of gameplay there, because you can actually get yourself up a little army of little summon monsters. I thought that was kind of cool. And if you want to, and the really great thing about Spiderweb games is if you're on the fence about this, you're like, well, Phil, I'm not sure that's really what I'm into. Well, the cool thing is they have huge demos of their game on their websites, so you can go and check those out. Download a demo. They're beefy demos, and then if you like it, then go to Steam and buy the Quintril. What is it when it has 5 in it, Mr. Minky? What's that called?
5. Well, it's a quintet if we're talking musically, so let's just do quintet.
Yeah. So you can go buy that, or you can buy the quintet of games on Steam for. Anyways, the website is if you want to download the demo. I don't know if the demo's available through Steam or not, but the demos I get them off of spidweb.com. It's spidweb.com. So they kind of take out the in Spiderweb, spideweb.com, but it's called Spiderweb Software. So, anywho, that's enough plugging for me today, I think. Yeah. Guess we should do the official disclaimer and all that other fun stuff. RPG Backtrack is a production of RPGamer, your source for RPG news, impressions, review, articles, and home to the best gaming community on the net. Write your questions and comments on our boards at board.rpgamer.com or email me, jcservant@rpgamer.com, and help shape our future shows. We thank you for listening to RPG Backtrack. As always, you're the reason we do this, so do us a favor, rate us on iTunes, follow us at twitter.com/rpgamer, become our biggest fans at facebook.com/rpgamer, and as always, you are more than welcome to listen to our vast array of previous podcasts, as well as our 2 awesome yet slightly inferior sister shows, RPG Cast and RPG Sanctum, at rpgamer.com. Mr. Miki, put those people who I haven't already put to sleep, put the rest of us to bed.
I just learned how to dodge bullets! Then someone killed me with a knife, and I never learned it again. Then I comboed with all 4 other people in my party and killed the final boss. Except then the power flickered, and I couldn't do it again. This is the world of SaGa, and it is like nothing else.
Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force. Its purpose? To defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.